2. You're going to count down for 1? 1?
Hey, Lee.
We're on. Welcome to the Map It Forward podcast. Alvaro Sanchez, what's up, dude?
Hey, everyone. Hello, Lee.
We finally made it with all our technical difficulties. Happy
it.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's to you too.
I think you and I have known each other like 20 years. No, legit 20 years.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yes, I mean, it's great. I'm just realizing.
Fuck you
20
too.
Years. Yes, you were working at the deli type place in the fish market?
No.
Well,
keep guessing.
This starts really well, isn't it?
That's a great start, dude. Where did we meet?
You should have planned this ahead.
Happy fucking Valentine's Day.
See, this is real.
This is real. That's it.
It's just so
before anyone sends me any emails, we're friends.
Oh, we are friends.
But there's no one I'd rather do a Valentine's podcast with than you, Alvaro.
This is the lovely Valentine's podcast. Thank you for choosing me.
You're
for
welcome.
Such an occasion.
You and I met when you were my first coffee trainer. And we met at Mr. Espresso, my very first coffee job out of the corporate world, like 18 or 19 years ago. How old are you feeling now, dude?
How old am I? Thanks. I'm 41 this last year.
I'm older than you. Stop
I'm coming up to 42. Yeah, but look at this.
Neither
when you
met
me, I was so fresh. And
then you ended up with purple hair. Do you remember? You went to, was it purple or blue hair?
Did I? Oh, you had. Yeah.
No,
because
you
prior
had.
to those jobs, I used to have like all kinds of colored hair.
Yeah, you had colored hair. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So much energy, which you still do. I mean.
Yeah, you're the most vivacious person I know in coffee.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nah, that's lovely. I did drink a crap ton of coffee all the time.
Yeah.
So that also helps.
Your story is super interesting. I'm just going to turn you up on my headphones. Your story is interesting because you started in coffee. Did you do anything before coffee?
Oh, I did. I never really planned to get into coffee. I think most people that get into
That's
the coffee
all of us, though.
don't really plan to get into coffee. It's just like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, coffee. I get to socialize and meet. And hey, back in the day, like being in coffee in Sydney, it's a total chick magnet, wasn't it?
I was.
It wasn't for you.
Tony told me that.
Like the hottest guy in coffee, and you weren't getting any action from.
Look, prior to coffee, I was studying at uni. Well, I did a bunch of jobs in high school.
What did you study at uni? You did biology or something, right?
Philosophy and biology.
Yeah.
So
I remember.
Now in coffee, and it's like, but yeah. So see, those were the times. Talk about chick magnets. Well, I was a geek, but I used to do spoken word poetry. Had long hair. I used to then do philosophy stuff and science, and then I had a break from uni because I had way too much energy and not enough focus, and I started working in a pie shop actually, which is still around in Newtown.
Which
the
pie shop?
Next. It used to be called Shakespeare's Pies, which
yeah.
I thought was very appropriate because I was a poet.
Because you were doing.
So I was like, yeah, I bake pies at Shakespeare's.
What's it called now?
And whatever works. And I made my first little big fluffy cappuccino with a spoon. That was my very first espresso. And it's like, hey, this is how you do it. 2 pulls on the lever, and then you do this with the milk.
You taught me that. 2 clicks. Remember you taught me 2 clicks on the grinder?
Clicks, yeah. Yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah, I trained you when I very, very, very first started teaching coffee. I was still like, things evolved a lot. But back then it was just because the cafes were really busy. So if you were busy, you rely on the gravity
Right.
of the coffee. For all the baristas there that have never used manual grinder, you're missing out. I still have the calluses from those days. They never went away. Daga, daga, daga.
Oh man, the 1,000 coffees a day, clicking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way back when, none of this puck press or anything like that.
There was no back press.
No, but it's great that there is all this technology now. I can't wait for robots to be making everything.
For robots?
Yeah, it's not good that I'm saying that. Like, I'm sure everyone fucking hates me
because I'm like, some comments.
Yeah, no, let them.
Hey,
most people listen to this podcast rather than watching it, so they won't comment here. They'll wait till later and then send me an email saying, "Why are you trying to get rid of all of our jobs?"
Well, I'll tell you something about that, because for many years. I was, and the guys, actually, it's very funny because I have very funny conversations with our licensees in Manila, who I trained. I used to say this whole thing because, back then we didn't use scales, everything was manual, and so on. And I loved
baristas.
That. Eh?
We were intuitive baristas.
We were intuitive. I loved it. Actually, Hoffman, what's his name? James Hoffman was talking about why do espressos don't look as good anymore like they used to do back when we were making coffees, because they used to look silky and honey and syrupy.
We didn't know
because
what
everything
the fuck
was
we were
done
doing.
by side. It's still being done like that, but it's sorry.
No. Go for
but
it.
It's a lot of the coffees, a lot of the extractions are getting faster. They're getting. I mean, I see extractions that way back then I would have been horrified and go, "You don't know what you're doing." It's like 17 seconds extraction, 20 seconds extraction, which tastes amazing if it's done correctly to the right. Everything is done to that point. But everything. But coming back to that point, everything was done intuitively. Everything was done by sight, by feel. I had no fingerprints at one point because I was doing 1,000 coffees a day. I'm a pretty messy barista. Like when I was making coffee at Toby's back in Woolloomooloo, it was a full body experience. I mean, it was just like people would go, "Wow, the place smells so good like coffee."
Fantastic.
Yeah, because there's bloody coffee everywhere. So it's like got
it
some
was
your
a full
cup.
body experience.
It was just like, like come on, I'd be like this potpourri of like Woolloomooloo blend.
I was known for the same thing.
You were what?
But I was known for the same thing, and now I understand why. You fucking trained me.
Yeah.
The guy I used to work with, the first person I worked with was a guy by the name of Marco, and he used to think it was hilarious to say to everyone, "Hey, watch me do an impression of Lee being a barista," and he'd pour milk all over the bench and chocolate and throw 55,000 spoons on there and went, "This is what it looks like when Lee makes coffee." I'm like, "Fuck you." He's like, "No, really, that's what it's like when you make coffee." And I'm like, "Okay, now I understand why, because you grub, you taught me."
I got better now that we have back press.
So did I.
Scales.
I went and worked at Campos.
I don't have to make a mess anymore. I got fingerprints again. And it was so much fun because, I mean, you'd be like slam and you'd be working with a shitty machine. Like I started working with a San Remo, not even, a San Marino. My God. San Marino 3-group machine with a boiler the size of like this.
Yeah.
Whenever we made a long black, the whole thing would just like break down and you have to wait and do the whole temperature surfing, which was great because it got you thinking how everything works.
Yeah.
But then he will be doing like 150 coffees an hour. Me and the guy I was working with, this is prior to this was my first specialty coffee job. And it was just like, focus on the coffee, focus on the shot, make sure that was the most important thing. Like just make sure that the shots are always consistent, everything's coming out. Who cares about what's happening? This is the only thing that matters.
Yeah. And, remember back then it was all about like you never entered coffee competitions in Sydney because like if you were any good, you would bring it at the bar. Like remember back then? Like,
I didn't enter competitions.
Did you?
But no, again, I would come straight after my shift wearing my coffee covered cargo pants with a cardboard box with all my caps, and I just hoarded from like wherever I could find
Wow.
it. And I always ended up like top 5. So
Yeah, wow.
once I got 4th, I think. Anyway, and I make a bit of a show of it. I had like fire, and I would do all this like fun stuff.
Wow, that's awesome.
Like with the that was pretty cool. There was a picture that someone took just in the moment when I was squeezing a big wedge of orange.
Uh-huh.
And I got these particular oranges that had really thick skin, so you could have a massive
The
flame
oil.
on
Yeah,
the
wow.
whole. Yeah, the oils. That was so fun. So actually, it was good. That was actually, but I had no chance. That was the same year that Paul Bassett competed, and that guy trained like an Olympian. Like that guy was intense, and it was like, all right, cool. Yeah. So yeah, 2003.
It was like, that just seems like a whole other era ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like long ago, but it was about a year
20
ago.
years. I feel like I've lived 50 lifetimes since then.
Yeah, I can live another 100. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying this whole life thing.
Are
Yeah,
you?
let's keep going. Oh yeah, and it's great. I mean, there's the ups and the downs and the weirdness, but
It's not that I'm not enjoying it. It's that I think it's funny. Right before we got on this call, I was listening to Steven Pinker, giving a lecture. That's what people like you and I do. Like, you and I talk about those kinds of things when we're not on a podcast. Just for anyone who's listening thinking, who the fuck are these people? We listen to Alan Watts and have conversations about it. So
in the middle of the night when I'm a little.
Yeah, he'll message me because I'm the only friend that's awake.
She lives in the other end of the world, so be awake. Someone will listen to me.
In his drunken craze. And he'll message me about
I was trying to avoid
the simulation.
A
little bit drunk or a little bit high, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, you can get high.
Oh, that's right. You can hear. No. You can hear.
Yeah, maybe I come for a visit. And,
come.
No, I'm not doing that. Okay, if anyone's listening.
Come. No. But you can come here and
I'll definitely
do that
come and
legally.
have some elixir with you.
Yes. We could walk around the streets and get high if you like. You can do that here.
Where
but
are
anyway,
you? In South California, yes.
Yeah. I'm in San Diego.
Cool. I thought, okay, cool.
You can't smoke in your home here. In this building that I'm in, like, it's a smoke-free zone. But you could walk around the streets and smoke weed as much as you want. It's hilarious. It's so
It sounds pretty funny. There'll be some characters out there too. Actually, when I went to San Francisco, I loved it because just on the bus from the airport to where I was staying, it was so funny. People in the bus were so loud and talking, and there was this dude talking to another dude out of the blue. There was just all this stuff going on, and just characters. There was just so many characters.
San Fran might be your city.
I liked San Fran. Yeah.
Wow,
that was fun. So,
I haven't been yet. I haven't been yet. So that's why I'm not judging.
No.
I haven't been yet. I'm going sometime this year, which will be fun. I feel like it's a city that will have. People tell me different things, that it's either going to be in your face, or it's so flamboyant that I might not like it. And I'm like, I just want to be somewhere that it's super real.
It felt pretty real. It was a little confronting because I've been, in Asia for a long time. Everyone's pretty quiet and chilled, and suddenly, everyone's pretty big, like in personality, in physicality, everything. There's just bigness about people.
Yes,
it's just like tall, big people. Like,
well, everyone's so petite in Singapore.
It's massive. I go anyway. But super friendly, super cool. I just felt a little bit at the beginning. I was a little bit intimidated, but I had an amazing night there. I went to near Berkeley Uni. Is it Berkeley? There? Oh, one of the universities there.
Maybe.
I can't remember.
Berkeley's in California, near LA.
Berkeley. Yeah, it wasn't Berkeley. It was, anyway, there was a university there. Someone told me. I went on a bit of a beer discovery sort of run. This is back in 2011. I was there for the Japanese
How
tsunami.
unusual. You went out drinking?
Right? I went
How
drinking. I know,
unusual. You went out
so
drinking.
weird.
It's so weird.
God, I have such a reputation. Anyway, I grew up in Australia. It's what we do.
Yeah, you
Suddenly,
say it's a
weird
Spanish
Italian accent.
thing.
What's going on? And Mario. Anyway, so no, but there was I was there for coffee to learn how to use the lorry and how to pull it apart and everything. So prior to going
Uh-huh.
to Santa Rosa where they build it, I was there for 3 days or so. I did a bit of a coffee tour, so drank a lot of coffee. In the evening, I thought, well, I hear there's some really cool craft beers, and there was a bar with
Yeah.
50 beers on tap. So I'm hanging out there on my own, just trying a couple of beers, start a conversation with someone, started a conversation with this girl who just going to a party. It was a wake of a guy who was a massive party
Oh,
dude, and he just died of
fuck.
partying too much. So everyone was celebrating his life. And she's like, yeah,
Wow.
come in my car, let's go. I just ended up in her car, went to this party. Everyone, it was insane. Everyone's dancing, drinking. I think, and that she ended up driving me back to my hotel. It was awesome. Just random people that you
A
meet and go
random
on
night out.
adventures. Yeah,
Was it
it has been
was it
pretty
a
common in
culture
my
shock
life.
for you? Is it different to the culture that you're used to now? Because you've gone from
Yeah,
Australia to Singapore,
yeah. Well, Australia,
and
Indonesia, Sri
then
Lanka, Singapore,
yeah.
Philippines.
Was
Yeah.
Singapore weird? That with regards to culture, was it a weird culture
Oh,
shock?
Singapore was probably the toughest place at the beginning, and it's basically it was more my headspace at the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I just spent 9 months in Sri Lanka, sort of on adventures. Having a pretty tough time at times, but being pretty chill, doing lots of Kundalini yoga, and being pretty
Mm-hmm.
vibrant in nature. And it was actually wild because there was a war going on at the time. They had
Oh
plenty of
wow.
machine guns pointed at me, bombs going off, air raids. It was an interesting 9 months, but also at the same
Jesus.
time had an amazing sort of growth time and mind blowing in many ways. That's a 3-hour conversation. But to keep it short, I just came from absolute freedom in a way to a job that was very regimented, to a very sort of commercial coffee roaster, sort of who was very old school, and I was hired to do all the specialty things for them and so on. So I mean, I'm really super grateful to these guys because they're the ones that sort of got me here. But at the same time, it wasn't really the right fit, and it was tough those first 4 months here.
Mm.
Well, I was like, oh God,
What
what
have
am
I
I
done?
doing? And but I got to Singapore with $100. I was down to my last $100.
I've done that before.
Um,
Fuck.
and I was, I got, they flew me over. The first month I lived on it's these $3 coconut buns. For $3 you get 6
Uh-huh.
coconut buns, and I would have one of those and do my meditation and live on the Dharma, So for that I
Oh,
got
I
paid.
know.
I was
I own
"Ah."
businesses. I know.
Yeah. So that was an interesting thing. After 4 months, actually, I reconnected with Tobes, who then introduced me to someone that was going to do.
Shout out to Toby Smith, a
Yeah,
mutual friend of ours.
and then he connected me to someone that was doing distribution for Toby's here, and then started sort of working with them. And I wasn't getting paid very well. I was getting paid well for local standards, but I had to it was things got better basically, and then from there things went a bit up and down, but now until everything sort of been taking its shape. It's been a journey. It still
You
is.
know, did you consider, this is something that I didn't consider when I moved to America for the first time. Did you consider how difficult it would be trying to acclimate or acclimatize to a new city? No, neither did I. I
Nope.
wish anybody had have told me.
I don't know if it really makes a huge difference. I wish someone would have underlined the importance of making sure that I did not skimp out on a nice place to live, because that's actually really important in Singapore. Well, I think
Yeah.
anywhere you live.
Anywhere you live.
And I think for me, I think I spent way too much time wasting money and time and energy not wanting to go back home. Hence maybe drinking a little more than I should have. And when I could have actually spent all that time and everything being in a place that was a little more accommodating to what I needed. I think I was sort of focused, a little bit misfocused in that way. And only about 2 years into living in Singapore that I sort of clicked, and I thought, maybe I'll do that. And things started sort of settling down. Plus, I met,
Go on.
I know I met great people there. I've got the two closest people to me here. I mean, I met them in the first year or two that I was living here. I was still super close. And so last night I was with my little sister. She's effectively my little sister. So
Yeah.
and and her husband's in Sweden, so she's about to go on Tuesday. So last night we did a little gong yoga thing.
Nice.
And then we went to have a couple of beers.
You've got to finish it with a couple of beers, right?
Well, she's leaving, it was Valentine's.
I'm not judging, bro.
I know. I'm sort of judging myself.
I'm like the last person that ever judges any. All I fucking drink is elixir and tea. I don't judge anyone.
Oh, man. Yeah. We should have an elixir.
The worst thing for me is that when I moved, I didn't anticipate that it was going to be rough. I didn't anticipate you're uprooting. Well, not just to America. This is like my third time moving to America. And I swore I'd never live here again.
Is this the first time that you moved to America?
Third.
No, I mean when you're talking about the first acclimatization.
Yeah, the first time I came, I think I had just left my husband, and my whole world was tumultuous. And I was so in the shitstorm of my life of feeling so unfamiliar about everything. I couldn't recognize what pain was coming from which origin in my life. Was this feeling of hard stuff coming from the fact that I've moved to another country, or is it coming from having left my husband, or is it coming from everything was just hard. My whole fucking life was just hard. But on the other side of that, I'd got an amazing recording deal. I had got my music career was taking off. I was getting written up by MTV Hollywood, blah blah blah. And so part of me was really happy that great stuff was going on, because I could bury myself in my work. But then when all of that was turned off, I was like, I don't fit in Los Angeles. I don't understand this city. I am very confused by the people here. I grew up around great people. All my friends were good, great people, and who cared about each other. We looked out for each other. Mm. And so you go to somewhere like LA, and I was too naive for that experience that soon after I'd gone out of my situation with my husband. I married my first boyfriend. Oh. I know. I was so sweet, wasn't I?
Sweetly.
And we
Shout
were together.
Out to Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. And look, we're still friends. We'll text every now and then and just check on each other. We have dinner every time I go back to Australia. I just want to make sure, it's a good situation. But I'd never kind of explored anything. And then to be so abandoned, in the sense that my whole life, I was disconnected from my whole life.
What drove you to go to LA? It's a pretty ballsy move especially from the background that you're talking about.
I was too naive. Yeah, I was too naive to realize that it was ballsy. I'm like, well, this just sounds awesome. I was fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, that's brave and stupidity.
Look, everyone was saying to me at the time, oh my God, this is so courageous. And I'm like, what do you mean courageous? Like, my music career is taking off. This isn't courageous. This is just like what you do, right? No,
No, it doesn't.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Cool.
And then it wasn't, I wasn't done enough with the bashing that Los Angeles gave me. I moved back home, spent a few years there, and then I moved back to Los Angeles for another round of, because I hadn't learned enough from that situation. Clearly.
Hang on, are you being sarcastic? Or?
Yes, very sarcastic.
Well,
Very sarcastic.
Had you learned enough? Did you realize the second time that you learned enough? Or
The
did you have
second
more to learn?
time I went there to write an album. And I went there and like, all right, I'm going to write an album to find my identity. This is the journey that I'm going to use to figure out who I am. Because I was still very confused it was probably 5 years out from my divorce at that time. And I was like, I still don't know who I am. I don't have a compass. So I decided I'm going to go write an album. And my producer was in Australia. Funnily, we met at Toby's. I was the head barista at Toby's in Potts Point at the time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so we met there, and then he just came up to me one day. He handed me his ignore everything that's happening on your phone. Pay attention to me.
I am. I just suddenly
turn off all the
a drama
notifications.
unfolding on my left. So I'm just shutting everything down. I'm so
Ignore
sorry.
your computer.
Yeah, it's off.
We met at a cafe, and I said to him, look, I'm going overseas. And anyway, we ended up deciding that we could make an album while we're in different countries, and we would figure out how to do it. And we did. We wrote it and recorded it in our bedrooms in different countries all over the world. You know, I can see you tapping on your screen.
I know. It's just because I went off the screen.
Okay.
I am listening.
I should fucking hope so.
Attention.
I'm with you. Now that looks creepy.
I am with you.
Oh dear.
Can't do anything right today. Oh, God.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. Anyway,
So
LA
you're
was
in the
just one of
cafe in
those
Potts
cities.
Point.
Yeah, and we decided to do an album together, but because of what was going on with my career at the time, there was all this weird stuff going on around the Twilight soundtrack, and I was going to go do a gig I was going to start doing some shows here in the US. So I came back here, and that was me going to live here again.
How long did you stay?
2 years.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't like a little trip. It was, yeah.
No. I was here 2 years, and then I thought I was going to stay for good, and I just couldn't take it after 2 years.
In LA as well?
Yeah, in LA. And I moved back. LA's one of those cities that she'll teach you a lot, but she'll break you while she's doing it. And and I just didn't. I came from a world that was very community based. People give a big shit about each other. You know what Sydney's like. You know, people care a lot about each other. And then you go to such a transient city like LA, and every time you meet a different person, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's so great that we're connecting," but they've got one eye on you and the other eye on who's coming through the door.
Right.
And, you know, just weird shit goes on from a business perspective. It's the entertainment industry. I don't know what I expected, but everything they tell you goes on in the music industry goes on in the music industry. And I wasn't prepared to play any of those games. Like, I wouldn't get on my knees for anyone, and I wouldn't suck anybody's dick for, you know, a record deal or anything like that. So that immediately excluded me from a bunch of stuff. And so, and that was fine. For me, I'm like, well, I don't want to be in an industry where I have to do all this other stuff,
Mm.
if there's no point me working really hard on my craft if the barrier to entry is whether I'll drop down on my knees. It just doesn't make any sense.
Is that getting better? Is
I don't know.
any changes happening, or it's all the same shit still?
It's been like that since the beginning of the industry.
Yeah.
I just always thought, but nobody would want to do that with me, so I'm fine. And it's not the case. Like, they'll have a go at whoever's vulnerable enough. And I was clearly like naive as shit, even though I was in my 30s. And I just realized, like, there's got to be a way I can figure out how to do this independently. And so when I went home, I was working really hard on that, being an independent endeavor.
Yeah.
And we were meeting with Google. I was meeting with Google about this new album project that I wanted to work on called Love and Other Delusions. This was after that album had come out and stuff like that. Oh, dude, I'm the biggest cynic when it comes to love. Which is why, like, when you said to me, let's do it on Valentine's Day, I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
Let's crush everybody's hope for love.
I don't believe in love.
That's the theme of the podcast today.
No, I'm not the
you can
biggest.
be a positive cynic. I like, because it's a playful title as well.
Love and Other Delusions.
Love in a sense, it's sort of a delusion, but it's also
100% of the people that I talked about this project to, 100% of the people agreed with the preface of the project. The preface of the project was that we are taught as children what love is through fairy tales and magazines and movies and all this kind of shit, right? Yeah. And then we grow up and we experience love. It's completely different than what the fairy tales tell us. Now,
I
call that gap the delusion. I remember having this conversation with Toby and I was telling him what I was doing. And he's like, yep, 100%. It was, that gap is what I call the delusion. And so I decided I was going to do this album called Love and Other Delusions. But it was going to be different to other albums. It was going to be a global co-write. And we had some of the biggest producers in the world signed up for this project. All of them Grammy Award winning and ARIA winning.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was huge. But then Alexa turned up, and at the time that I was meeting with Google, they had turned around and said to me, like, this Alexa thing looks like it's going to be a pretty big deal. You can always do this album project, but you're not going to be able to do this album project and do Alexa at the same time. Go and do Alexa and then come back and do this album project.
Wow. So they got like an open door still? Or?
I don't know. I don't think I want to do that album project anymore.
Oh, okay. Are you a little less cynical? I'm trying to get some love here. No.
I have all the love in the world for you. But
I'm still a bit of a romantic, even though,
I'm a romantic too. That's probably what crushed my feelings about love.
Yeah. That's why I totally get where you're coming from. That's the thing. It's like, that's why it's so funny. Like that point that you make is like everyone's grown up with a certain idea. But having said that, my parents met when they were 14. They've got this fairy tale. Well, actually, they have a very.
Is it really a fairy tale?
Their way of having fun and enjoying each other is to nag at each other.
Yeah, right. Like I said,
but it works for them for 50 years.
I say the same thing about my parents. They got married when they were super young, and they're madly in love, etc., etc. But they didn't have the same options that we do. Like, to them, the idea of not being together is not even a consideration.
Yeah, I think the whole delusion, for lack of a better word, hasn't really caught up with the times.
There is no better word, bro. That's the real part of it. Yeah. That's what it really is. Delusion. It is a delusion.
But having said that, I mean, maybe once upon a time it was sort of aligned with how things were more or less going to be. But I don't know. Yeah,
I think
there's me somewhat hopeful. I don't know why.
Bro, you're speaking to the queen of destroying the delusion that is love
I don't
here.
know, it's a little bit like Santa Claus, it's just like, it feels a little bit so sad to like destroy that, but at the same time, it is bullshit. Oh well.
Like when you think about it, you're a philosophy major. When you think about the idea of love, what does it really mean anyway? Like, it's another word like good. Good is a judgment. Wrong is a judgment. Right is a judgment. Love is even more wishy-washy than that.
Well, okay, let's take that in a more sort of universal stance.
Right, and before anyone that's listening is like, are these fuckers serious? Talking like
coffee,
this about a coffee podcast? We said at the beginning this is a Valentine's podcast, and
we are talking about love.
We are just talking about stuff. Like, this podcast is just conversations. So this is where we're going with this, and we're just going to run with it. So I hope you enjoy
running with it.
That's it.
We're having a great time.
We have very deep conversations anyway, so this is going to be nothing less than that.
Yeah. I'm not mistyping everything for a change. I'm just missaying
You fucking
things.
better not be. Hands where I can see him, bro.
I know, right? That's on your head. No, but okay, this love thing, this is very interesting. It's been a theme that has been going on for the last few months, on and off with different people. And it's been going on forever, but it's a couple of people that are really close to me, and one in particular has sort of made it a point this year, one, to love himself, and two, to work to operate from a point of love, which is something that sort of one of my mentors, such when I was in my 20s, she was doing. I'm sort of all over the place, but it all come together. One of my mentors when I was in my 20s, she was doing a PhD on authenticity and what it is to be authentic, and that was the very first time that I got that that way of going about life, to try and always operate from a place of love. What that is, yes, it can be subjective, and it has to do with the your level of where you are, what you think love is, and so on. But to the best of your ability, try and sort of either empathize, connect, or work from a place that you think it's going to be loving. And actually, last night, after a few days, we were talking to the singer about this. That was anyway. He came sat with us, and we were talking about that. He seemed to have had some issues and so on. And we started going on about operating from love, and that was that mean.
That's my issue with it. Like, operating from a place of love, it seems to be more concrete to say I'm operating from a place of kindness, or I'm operating from a place of sincerity or compassion or empathy. Like, these are. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's all of those things.
Is it? For some people, they think that showing their love is by beating the shit out of people. I was dating a guy a couple of years ago who thought it was I love you. He was near on, like, he couldn't do enough for me in his eyes. Whereas from where I was looking at it, I'm like, this guy's a sociopath.
Okay, well,
he's a legit sociopath. It's all very weird. And I'm like,
okay, so I get where you're coming from. That's pretty horrible.
No, but my frame of point is
like, the whole love thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But, and then, so the weird thing, like, people are finding out far too fucking much about me on this episode. But what my thing to that was, he was convincing me. He was like, no, you're seeing it all wrong.
What?
Blah, blah, blah. Right? Like, he was trying to convince me.
Fuck?
Yeah. He got married 2 weeks later. He met someone and married her 2 weeks later. I'm like, no. This motherfucker was gaslighting me, and I saw it, and I cannot believe I told this story in the podcast.
We can always say, no, it's live.
It's live.
Okay. I'm really scared starting to revealing all my inner things. What are we going to do today?
It's because I'm talking to you.
I love you.
Anyway, that's fine. I love you too, my friend.
No, but now there's no love. You just destroyed love, Lee.
And what I mean by I've just destroyed love for you, I don't think anyone could destroy love for you. You're too willing to experience it.
Am I what?
You're so willing to put yourself out there and experience it. I've just lost a lot of faith in humanity.
Yeah, well, I'm not as willing to put myself to the experience as I once was, because it does suck when shit goes wrong, which often invariably does. But sometimes it does, and sometimes But yeah, okay, operating from love. Maybe we can change that to operating from empathy and kindness to begin with.
Right.
And if you can do that, then we move up to love. Like
I think all of those things are
trying to sneak it in there some way.
Yeah, no. And the reason nah. Nah, fuck that.
Fuck that.
Yeah, nah, fuck that.
3 steps of
every guy that was thinking, I'm going to have a conversation with Lee at Expo was like, no, she's fucking crazy. No, not going to happen. No, the thing is, like, I just decided that if I look at this objectively and you look at these situations, most of the pain in my life has come from those experiences, and I'm a much better, well-rounded woman because of it. But I think that I need to get some distance from those experiences for some time, because most of the people that I meet, and I mean friends, right? Most of their misery comes from love situations. Right?
I know.
Whenever you and I have talked and you've been sad, it's always because of a woman.
Because of?
Because of a woman, because of a relationship that you've been in.
Well, a relationship, not necessarily a woman, but yeah.
Not necessarily a woman, but a relationship that you've been in, right? And when I look at that, I'm like, oh, yeah, like it's not, well, first of all, it's not just me. I spent a long time thinking I was the only person who didn't have it figured out. And then second of all, I'm like, well, what if I just peace out of this situation for some time? And I'm now what you'd consider self-partnered. I have a ring to prove it.
You married yourself?
It's a real diamond. I did.
Cool.
I can't fucking believe I admitted that on the podcast as well.
It's okay.
It is. So I'm self-partnered now, and I cannot believe how much has changed my life. It sounds bizarre that it has. I think everybody should do it. Everyone, every human on the planet should do it at some stage. Like, go out and have relationships, and then make the decision to become self-partnered. And
sorry,
go ahead.
That was the thing. It was what this very good friend of mine said. It wasn't loving self. It was I want to become my own best friend. I just realized that I said it wrong, which is very much similar along the same lines.
It's same.
And I think that is a great idea, because I think, we are the most vulnerable when we get in a loving relationship, and that's where we can get hurt the most, which is
you look
probably
scared
why.
To use the word love.
No, I'm just thinking. I'm just trying to process. I'm scared of it's words.
The word love.
No, I'm just trying to sort of word it right. So if you can, it's that same old cliche saying, which there is truth to it. You gotta sort of love yourself first in a way. You gotta sort of learn to be totally at peace and forgiving and loving to yourself before you can do that for anyone else, because it's you're gonna find those things in other people, and generally the things that piss you off the most about people are things that piss you off about yourself. Not always, but I do find that rings true to me, or things that used to piss me off about myself and seeing in other people, and that's where I find myself being the least patient. And then going, I have a moment here. Remember, you were that annoying bastard. So, and you start recognizing these things, and we're humans, so we fuck up sometimes. But
Lots of
it's when
times.
you start pointing, you start sort of getting the radar for those things, and you start sort of thinking, and you're sort of more forgiving to yourself, to your past self, to your present self,
Uh-huh.
and to the people that sort of project those parts of you that you sort of see. And that's sort of, I think that's a great starting point to get
Yeah.
on a journey, to sort of love again, um, or
No.
I'm being
No, bro.
silly. No, I'm just I had to sneak that in because it sounded funny. It's not exactly, but
You
it,
know what's going to happen? Like, if I ever end up in a relationship again, everyone's going to be like, well, what about that whole love thing that you went into it? Like, now you're into it? I'm like, he's
yeah,
hot,
that was the
right?
past self.
No,
We've moved on.
no. I
Yeah,
mean, I
it's
don't know
okay.
if I'm ever going to be in a relationship with anyone again, but I can tell you that since the 16th of November, when I put a ring on it,
It's my
till
mom's
now,
birthday.
is it? Great things
Ah,
happen the 16th of November.
they do indeed.
I was surprised that I did it, and I was surprised that I was so affected by having done it. And I thought about it for a few weeks before I did it, and then
Positively affected.
in massive ways,
Yeah.
in ways that have shocked me. Because I'm a very practical person, and so I didn't think that actually putting a ring on myself was going to have any change, but it really, I don't think I was prepared for all the positive changes that it had.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know that I was like holding this weird space in my life for what happens if somebody turns up one day. And I'm like a super busy person. I mean, we're all fucking super busy, but I'm running two businesses. And so I was like, oh, well, if I did get into a relationship with someone, I would make time for them. But here I am working till midnight every night, not making any time for myself. Well, as soon as I became self-partnered, I was aware of this space that I was holding for somebody else. And then I realized I wasn't holding any space for myself. So I stopped working at 7:00 every night.
Cool.
And now I get angry if I'm working later than that because it's time to spend with me.
Yeah.
So it's, those two things were huge. And then the other thing, the biggest thing, was I started trusting and believing myself more than anybody else for the first time in my life.
Awesome. That is a really great place to be.
I prioritized what I believe and what I trust over everybody else in my life. And I'm like, shit, this feels good. This feels really, really good. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes you feel safe. Again, I can't believe I'm admitting all of this on this podcast.
But this is great. I think, look, if there's a lot in there for a lot of good stuff in there for people to listen to. I mean, I think these are great experiences, and these are great examples on things to sort of start thinking about. If you listen to yourself like you listen to someone you really admire, I think you're into a good thing because
I can't tell you how much it's changed
people sell
everything that I
themselves
do.
quite short often.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, I look in our industry and I look at the emails that I get and I listen to the way that people speak to me, and I hear so much depression and anxiety. I see so much online of people saying, I'm having a terrible mental health day, all of these kinds of things. And I notice I have a tendency, and I've told you this before personally, but I have a tendency towards depression and anxiety. After I self-partnered, it's not that I don't feel those things. I am much kinder to myself and much more supportive of myself when that has happened. So now what I do is okay, Lee, you're not feeling it right now. What can I do to make this better for you? And that's the kind of thing that I would think a partner would do for me. But now I'm stepping up and doing that shit for myself. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how much permission I give myself to be like, this is an inappropriate time to be working. the podcast needs to wait for 2 hours today. You need to get up and go for a walk and go hang with a tree, or go and listen to an audio book that makes your heart feel warm, or you need to go and eat a burger.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not looking for anything or anyone else to make me feel safe. The other weird thing is, I find it very easy to ask people for support now.
Okay.
Which surprised me. It really surprised me that I was like I hold people to what they say that they're going to do. So I remember I was telling people, I made it a point that when I had conversations with the people who were important to me, I was going to tell them that I was self-partnered. And I remember that I was talking to one friend of mine, and I said to her, I've got something to tell you, but I want you to understand that this is super sensitive for me, and I need you to just be supportive. I've never said that to anybody in my life. Of course, in that moment, she's like, I'm sorry, I just can't promise you that I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm like, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you. And I just went on. That was for me. It was like, oh, wow, I just kind of took care of me there rather than just, that was huge for me. And I'm like, fuck, have I been like this my whole life, in that I was taking care of everybody else's feelings before I was taking care of my own feelings. Self-partnering forces me to be aware of what I need first, because there's nobody else. This is me that I'm counting on the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I can't wave. I mean, I know to some people this sounds like, oh my God, this is such a dick move, but I swear by it.
Why is it a dick move? Why would that be a dick move?
Well, some people said to me, oh, what does it mean now? Like, are you going to go and announce it on Facebook, or are you going to, I'm shocked I'm talking about it here. Yeah. I haven't, you and I are friends on social media as well. Have you seen me say anything about any of it?
You know, keep going.
No, tell me. Oh, it went?
No, I had a
Tell me.
had a meltdown. I'll tell you in a second when it all comes together again.
I love watching your brain happen on the outside of your face.
Oh God.
Dear. It's just one of those things where you're like, I didn't think that this would change my life. Like, perhaps it'll have no effect, but then I can just take my ring off. Like, it's not a big deal, you know?
You can just divorce. Well, not really. You can't really get away from yourself. And that's the other thing that very good old friend of mine told me once. You can never get away from yourself. You have to learn to deal with it and accept it and forgive yourself. That was one of the best advices I got in my early 20s, you know, because I was really... I'll hold myself really to a I was really harsh on myself, still can be, but it's just, but one of the things was, you know, self-forgiveness, like, just be cool. It's going to be fine. Don't punish yourself. Don't get self-destructive and things like that. And that's what I was going to say. People, 41, never been married, never had kids, and anything like that. And, you know, around Asia, people tend to be a little bit more traditional and so on. They're like, are you not afraid of being alone or dying alone? And so on. And the thing is, like, we all sort of die alone. So,
everybody does. It's kind of the way it works.
Like, you know, I'll take you down with me. It's just like, I'm not some Egyptian pharaoh. It's like, right, you're burning.
Yeah, you're going to die with me, and you're going to be buried with me, and you're going to be buried with me. That's the way it's all going to go down.
Be happy in the afterlife. And so yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like we are sort of we connect with people, and we're, you know, that's really important, some communities and friendships and so on. But really, like, we live our lives alone, in our heads, and if we can't be our own best friends, then who else is gonna be able to do that? We know all this stuff that happens in our heads. You know, it's a whole as much as we might reveal everything in the podcast.
Right.
Like, there's just all the stuff that happens there, all these things. It's just, we know everything about us, and we gotta be able to be the ones. We are the most important people in our world. Unlike that, we have the responsibility to be empathetic to ourselves and accommodating, and to treat ourselves like our own best friend.
I so agree with that. When I did self-partner, I kind of sat down with myself and really, you know me, I like to ponder a lot. And so I kind of went on this pondering experiment about, like, what does this mean? Okay, well, it means that I am responsible for my own happiness. I am responsible for my own safety. I'm responsible for my success. I'm responsible for making choices in my life that will bring me everything that I desire. And that can mean anything. Like if I decide I want to have 15 toy boys, it's up to me to make sure that I do that in a fun, happy, safe way that doesn't create any dysfunction for me or for anybody else that's involved. And if I choose to be celibate the rest of my life, it's up to me to do that in a way that doesn't judge myself and doesn't feel like I need to defend my decisions to anybody.
Yeah.
And that mindfuck of all of that, whatever I decide to do, is an important part of the self-partnering process for me, because I don't have to just explain my decisions to anybody, but I do have to make sure that I'm making concrete decisions for myself. And self-partnering forced me into that level of accountability. And being like, all right, this is you now. This is you who is going to make these things happen. So you better fucking do a great job of living a happy life, because you're not going to be able to leave it up to somebody else to make you happy.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Now, to add to that, just to people listening, if this is hopefully, getting to people and helping people, getting them to sort of think about things, keep in mind, this is a gradual thing. This is just like, put a ring on it, everything happens.
If you yeah,
you could get in the ring selling business.
Alvaro will tell you the level of clusterfuckery that has gone through my mind over the last many years. Like the conversations that we have had and we have the coolest fucking conversations about all different things, whether it's philosophy or the simulation or, all the kind of things, relationships, everything. We have great conversations. But a lot of those things happen when, like, I'm in a really dark place or he's in a really dark place, because you have the deepest access to your fear at those points. You don't just all of a sudden, like, if your head's a mess and you decide, I'm going to put a ring on it, everything's going to be fine. No, let me tell you, I have heavily worked on myself. Like, I'm the most self-aware person I know, and people think I'm far too intense. But that's who I am. And that was the other thing. Like, I got so sick of explaining or having to defend that I'm a thinker and I'm a deep feeler. Like, I feel so deeply and I think so deeply. And I got so sick of that being a problem for people. Like, now I just revel in it. I love being drenched in my own mind. I love having the freedom to just think about shit endlessly for no reason. Like, you know that question I told you a few years ago, what's the purpose of purpose? Right.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we fucking did. And so I got so sick of having conversations with people about that. And like, fuck, it must be so intense in your brain. And I'm like, actually, I love my brain. I
Yeah,
love
how
being
fun is
lost.
this?
Yeah,
How fun
man.
is it to ask these questions? Maybe there's not an answer, but hey, we can just keep going
That's
and going.
it.
And
Like,
it's just, it gets deeper. And it's like a Mandelbrot set, you just go in and just, yeah.
exactly. But for me, like one of my favorite things to do is go for a walk and think about this shit and think about this shit and continue to think about this shit and then feel like super invigorated because I discovered a new thought that I'd never had before. And I'm like, fuck, this is cool.
Yeah.
And that feels fulfilling to me. And I want to just be free to experience that joy without feeling like, oh, fuck, the person I'm with isn't keeping up with me, or they think very differently from me, or they think I'm crazy, or whatever. I'm like, no, this.
But I mean,
Go on.
surely that shit must be happening all the time. I mean, look at us at the moment, other
Right.
ends of the world, on a device, with a camera, doing, I mean, this shit didn't just happen. This shit happened because a lot of people had gone into full-on basic research of depth of thoughts and had
Right.
clicks and ideas. I mean, this is what makes us an awesome like species. So
I
what's the problem
agree.
with that? What the
I don't.
fuck?
I don't think that there's a problem with that. I
No,
think that
I don't think you think
the
that, but it's
moment,
just,
the moment that there's like in my experience anyway,
yeah.
in my experience, that when I've been in relationships with people, my excitement to dive into these kinds of things
Yeah.
either makes them, and they've all been mostly been really intelligent men, or very deep feeling men. It makes them, it threatens them for some reason.
Ah. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I don't want to feel threatened by anybody. I don't want people to feel threatened by me. So I'm like, this self-partnering thing, the one thing it's done for me is
Yeah.
removed all of that.
Yeah.
I don't have to hold myself back from anything because of anyone now. Now I
That is
can,
so annoying.
yeah, but I mean, the
I
world
know
is
it's true, but
different. It
but yeah.
moves different, and I hope less so as the years go by. But women see the world very differently to men. And for anyone who's going to send me a fucking email to tell me about me
Let's
and my
start with the
issues with gender, I
thing.
don't
Oh my
have
god!
any issues
Next is
with gender.
religion, and next is politics,
Right.
and oh
No,
god.
I love everyone and I accept everyone for
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
the fuck they want to call themselves. I think
yeah.
it's awesome. I am a massive advocate for be whoever the fuck you want to be and be proud of it. Okay? I come from a reality where when I was being raised, I'm almost 45. And so when I was being raised, women were expected to have a certain expectation of their future. You were expected to get married. I was also raised in the Arab culture. So not being married was not an option for me. Like, not that I was going to
Yeah.
be married off to anyone. That would never happen. But the idea that you would not get married just simply was never spoken of.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
especially the idea of like, you don't want to know the clusterfuck that went down when I left my husband.
Oh god, yeah.
I was ostracized from my family because of it. And I'm trying to show more compassion to them because of it. And this is not to let anybody off the hook for anything that they did, but I was the first person in the history of our family and the history of our village to have done anything like that. And I was living in Australia. You can imagine the kind of shame that they felt. And I wasn't apologetic for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I still had to bear the consequences of their reactions.
Yeah.
And so you just look at that and you think, all right, so this is how this is going to go down. And what is going to be, how is this going to shape the person that I become? And it absolutely did. It shaped who I became. And the thing is, when the reason people get worried for you when that happens, and by people, I mean my family, they don't operate in a sphere where women can defend themselves. They don't operate in a sphere where women can exist in a world and support themselves and do all that kind of stuff. Like you and I both came from that era. the idea of a woman being a self-sufficient, happy woman on her own building businesses, that wasn't necessarily accepted or a thing.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful that I have lived, and I never thought I'd see it, but to see the way that gender roles are progressing. And, you know, one thing that this, with regards to gender roles, has taught me and has shocked the shit out of me. I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I'm happy to step into my vulnerability about this.
I'm here.
I feel like it was really... All right. I feel like men... I didn't appreciate the pressure that men feel to be the person that carries the family. So what I mean by that, like, I didn't appreciate, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Because for me, I just always assumed that if I was going to be in a relationship with someone, it was going to be even and we would carry the load together. So again, I was really naive to this idea that men feel this pressure when they get married to provide. And I never considered that I wouldn't be provided for, just because I had always been provided for as a natural progress to life. I always worked. I always was able to take care of myself, and it never occurred to me that that would get hard. Until it got really hard. Because
what, self-providing?
Because the way I decided to do it was through building business. Had I have stayed working for other people, I'd be earning an incredible much more money than I'm earning now. But this shit is hard. Like, building businesses is crazy fucking hard. And I'm like, wow, the more I understand what it is to be responsible for putting a roof over your head and adulting and building for your retirement and building for, you know, all of these things that could eventuate in your life, and not having a partner there to do that with you, because I always assumed that I would, I'm like, I'm starting to get a better appreciation for why so many men who do want to be married and do want to have a family feel very pressured with regards to how do they provide for everyone. Because, and I'm sure this is going to be very unpopular and people are going to think I'm sexist.
Well,
and all
let's
that kind
put
of
this
stuff.
into perspective. The thing is that not every society is the same as the societies that you are living in right now. There's a whole bunch of different countries and worlds and ways of living life out there. So, I mean, you're talking like this, you came from a certain background, I came from a certain background with certain time scale, and this is still going on. And, you know, there are some positives about those things. There are some negatives. And as we evolve, things, it's not evolve necessarily always positive, but, you know, as we move forwards and things are not necessary, we let go of certain things. So if it's not popular, it's because maybe for those people that don't find it popular, that does not apply anymore. But in certain societies, it still does apply. So I'm just putting that in as a bit of a disclaimer for potential, you know, storms. Because the thing is that we live in a very diverse world still.
And a lot of my male friends say to me, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm meant to provide for a family of 3 or 4 on one salary now. And I don't think I had the kind of appreciation that I used to have before for that kind of a mindset.
And there's still a lot of expectation on that.
Yeah,
this still happens a lot. And it would be tough.
Look, and for, like, when I look at it, I never ever expected that when I was married, if we had have had children, it would never have been an expectation that he would have taken care of everything. But that's not what I'm saying. It's in a certain way of doing things. And he wasn't Arab. but he was half Greek, he is half Greek, half Macedonian. And there's a societal expectation that he would be able to provide. And he would feel that pressure, even if I didn't put it on him. Like many men that I see so many kids getting married now, like early 20s. I look at that and think, oh, it's so young. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
20s. Enjoy your superpowers.
Wait 10 years at least.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
20.
Maybe 20.
Maybe 20 years. Like, don't do it. But I look at that and I think, and I hear these kids, like young men saying to me, that you can see that they're supposed to be excited about the fact that they're engaged and about to get married, and they're freaking out. Like, they really love this person. Yeah. They're like, I'm going to have to figure out how to provide for us when we have babies. And I'm a barista and I earn $11.50 an hour, and maybe in 5 years I'll earn $15 an hour, and we won't be able to afford to ever buy a house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's just so much pressure.
Yeah. Well, is it necessary? Do they have to get married?
Religion and stuff like that dictates this kind of thing. Like, we live in a very religious country. Well, I do live in a very religious country, and there's a certain way to do things. And I know marriage is becoming less popular, but these kinds of pressure that people put on themselves, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do any of these kinds of pressure things. I don't know if that comes with getting older. You're like, no, I don't have to do this.
I was never really convinced by the whole thing, even when I was younger. I mean, I had the whole, being a bit of a romantic. I'd be like, but I didn't really delve deeply enough until later on, and then I was still not convinced.
For anyone who we're devastating with this,
I'm sorry, guys.
Don't do it.
Well, I would think about it, because if there is the pressures, from either religion or society or what have you. I mean, this is one of the things that we need to look at as a society. Is like, why are we putting people in a situation where the chances of succeeding are so minimal?
That's a really great point. That's a really great point.
Why don't we, let's go up the creek and see where the babies are coming from, sort of thing. With that analogies. Let's go to the root of the just
no, I
anyone
got you,
else is.
I got you.
So let's look at the root of the problem. Why the hell are we doing this, and why are we setting ourselves up for failure? It's where is this coming from? Why?
But I was saying to somebody the other day, and I even said it to Nick the last time I was in Australia. The best thing I ever did, the two best things I've done in my life, was to get married and to get divorced. The two best, most teachable things that happened in my life, that I couldn't be more grateful for the experiences of doing those two things, because I married the only person I will ever marry, but it also taught me, as great as that experience was, I don't think I believe in the idea of marriage.
Well, maybe that's the answer. Maybe this still serves a useful purpose.
It really did.
Said. Maybe we are not setting people up for failure after all. Maybe we're setting them up for a real education in life.
Perhaps.
Maybe that's why it still serves a purpose. And I'm just trying to make sense of it, if there is any.
It's one of those things that, first of all, for anybody who's listening, I had no fucking idea we would be talking about any of this stuff.
Nothing was planned today.
Nothing. People say to me often, like, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? And I'm like, whatever we talk about. And right before we got onto this podcast, I said to Alvaro, so what do you want to talk about? And he went, I don't know. Aren't you running this thing? And I'm like, well, I don't plan anything for this stuff. Like, I just want to have a conversation with someone. And so Like, as Alvaro will attest, do we prepare anything for these
Now, the
conversations?
only reason we were late was because my computer's stuck and I'm using my phone.
Right,
That's why
but
my finger goes to get rid of my notifications when they pop
we
up.
can't see any of the notifications. It's fine. But we legit, like, and because Alvaro and I have such deep, intense conversations, whether they be via chat or on the phone or whatever, I'm like, fuck, we could talk about 600 billion different things. I have no idea. We could talk about coffee. We could talk
Well,
about
you're a
philosophy.
scientist. I was so stoked when I found out that
So
you're a
are
molecular
you.
biologist. How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. I like, now they're doing like epigenetics. Have you heard of that shit?
Yeah, man. It's, you know
Fuck!
that, let
This
me,
is so cool.
yeah. Then the weird thing was epigenetics hadn't been discovered when I was at university.
No,
It's so
it had
new.
me too.
Like the cool thing was the lab that I was at university was a part of the Human Genome Project.
Oh, cool.
So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, back in the early 90s, they were trying to map the whole human genome.
Yeah.
And so what they decided was it was too much work for everyone, for one lab to do.
For one lab.
So they assigned it out to different labs all over the world and gave them a part of the genome to sequence.
Yeah.
And they expected that there was going to be like over 100,000 genes that they would find.
Yeah.
And everyone was left scratching their head when they're like, what? There's only 10,000 or so?
And there was all these like leftover junk DNA. And they were like, it was just like viruses that got attached to our DNA. This is junk. And
it's all just
the shit,
bullshit
man.
DNA. And
that's
then
the epigenetics.
Yeah, then like I think it's like 20 years. No. That was about 20 years ago.
Started about 20 years ago. It was about 20 years ago because I was his starting uni.
Yeah. So what epigenetics is, in the very short definition, it's the turning on and off of genes.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it is, like, stay with me here. If I'm pregnant...
I'm with you.
Yes, you are, sir. I feel very heard. Thank you for being there. So if I'm pregnant, epigenetics determines the genetics of my granddaughter.
Within that generation, it goes from generation to generation. It's like this way of adapting to environment that we've got.
And the reason for that is, it's a very cool story. So the way that all of this happened was somebody had gone to a funeral, a genetic scientist. I hope I don't butcher this story, had gone to a funeral somewhere in, I think, Scandinavia, was in a graveyard and noticed that there was two particular generations that were in this graveyard. So there was the grandmother's generation and the granddaughter's generation, but the mother's generation wasn't anywhere near as frequently present in this graveyard as the generation above and below. And so they thought that was quite peculiar. And so this scientist, I don't know why, I think it was a female scientist, but which is irrelevant, but this scientist decided to stay and dig deeper. And this was the beginning of the curiosity that ended up eventuating to epigenetics. And what they found was that in the third trimester, whatever a woman is experiencing in her third trimester, and relating it back to the graveyard, what they ended up finding was that grandparents' generation, the grandmothers in the village that were buried there, those grandmothers had experienced famine in the third trimester of their pregnancy. And in the third trimester is when, if you're pregnant with a girl, that's when her eggs develop in her ovaries.
Okay.
And so what would happen is, if the grandmother was experiencing famine in the third trimester while she was pregnant with a daughter, different genes were turned on and off because she was in famine and couldn't provide the nutrients or whatever it was. And so what ended up happening was that's how they realized that, there's this thing called epigenetics, that's where it stemmed from, because generation 1 could determine the genetics or influence the genetics of generation 3. No, the one after the next one.
After. Okay.
Generation 3, not generation 2, because the eggs of the daughter that generation 1 was pregnant with were being determined, because women are born with all of their eggs, right? Girls are born with, it's all predetermined.
Yeah.
And so how this went on was they were, so in 9/11, what they found was, and they started testing it. So epigenetics was a solid science by then. And what they found was, this was before 9/11, but they used the incidences in 9/11 as a study. If you undergo an extensive stresses in the 3rd trimester of your pregnancy, how do those stresses influence the genetics that get turned on and off? So what they can do is they can measure in the mother who is pregnant, they can measure her stress by the cortisol markers that are on her tongue. So they swab her tongue and they can tell what different enzymes are on the tongue. I hope I'm not butchering this.
This is so cool. I'm loving this.
It's really, really interesting, right? These are these things that I go off on my walks on and listen to podcasts and think about them. And anyway, so what happens is they are able to show that babies that are born to mothers with these stresses are born immediately showing these markers on their tongue. But it hasn't been long enough for those children to have grandchildren since 9/11, so they can't see what genetics. I mean, it's coming up to...
it will be coming up. They're in the 20s now. Wow. Well,
and that's baby-making age in this country.
What was that?
It's baby-making age in this country.
Baby-making age. In countries still.
In lots of countries, it's baby-making age.
Yeah.
I just think it's very young to be having babies at 20. Live your life.
Yeah.
Anyway. But epigenetics...
My mom had me at 18, We're like friends. It's actually quite cool in many ways. But I do think...
It's cute.
Wait a little longer.
But epigenetics is really interesting. And actually, so that we can say that we talked about something to do with coffee. Coffee genetics is super interesting on that perspective as well. Because what they're trying to do right now is figure out how to create varietals of coffee that can withstand certain habitats and because with climate shifting being such a big deal, what they're trying to do is find what are the best coffees that grow in Kenya. How can we get... We know that we've got these varietals. How can we create new genetic varietals that will work best in Kenya? And not only work best in Kenya, but then can go on to reproduce so that the coffee varietal... We can get an F1 hybrid, so that's the mating of two different varietals. They'll breed them. They'll come up with F1, which is the first generation. And will it be viable enough to replicate? Because just because something reproduces, it doesn't mean it's going to go on to be able to reproduce.
It depends. It depends the understanding of that a lot. Yeah. Well, it depends the understanding of all kinds of things. I just finished that book of Lifespan. And
I haven't read it. Is it good?
It's really good. I need to re-listen to it again because there's a lot of stuff in there to unpack. But basically, it's how these Australian doctors sort of, Australian scientists, and shout out to Australian science, and he's been talking about, it's been trying to promote old age as a disease, to be treated as a disease rather than something we have to accept. And the big connection to epigenetics there is the whole idea is that we age because our cells, the epigenome becomes deteriorates and it forgets how to turn the
things on and off.
And basically cells forget where they belong and who they are and what they do. So
Really?
a skin cell might start sort of morphing and turning into some other cell, which, it's all partially why cancer happens as well. So this would be
Yes.
sort of connected to sort of hopefully some sort of breakthroughs in cancers. But so basically the genome sort of deteriorates, and the whole idea is that is working with the different compounds and so on to try and get the cells to sort of remember who they are and not age, not deteriorate, because that's how, we all get saggy and aging, gray hair and all kinds of stuff. It's just those cells that, we're all vibrant in your 20s when you decide to get married, you crazy people. And it's, can I age you? So it's... but yeah, they forget how to do that. So they're working, and there's a bunch of labs in the US, Australia, and Singapore. They're the three countries that actually are beginning to adopt this sort of mentality of treating AIDS as a disease rather than something that we have to take. And they say this guy is super positive. That's what I loved about this book. It's like he's like,
what's his name again? I heard him on Rogan's
Sinclair.
podcast.
Oh my God.
David Sinclair.
David Sinclair. I can't believe I remember that.
Yeah, he talked. He's Australian. He is very popular in Los Angeles because he's like coming up with all the supplements, and it is David Sinclair, right?
Yeah, he won't tell you exactly, which is a little bit. I guess he can't really tell you what to take or anything. He sort of points you in the right direction, but it's a little bit. I'm a little bit scared to start jumping into taking all these supplements, even though he takes them.
You handsome devil! What do you need to be taking these things for?
Well, no, you gotta start early. No, seriously. Like this earlier you start, like but the research is not that solid yet.
Yeah.
But all his students, a lot of the other scientists, a lot of people are taking all this stuff like NAD.
Yep.
Another, I won't say it just in case people start taking the wrong thing and kill themselves. so don't take anything I say here. Okay?
We're not doctors.
Read that book.
Read the book.
But,
listen to him on Rogan.
I love listening to
him. Did you listen to him on Rogan?
No, I haven't. I listened to the audiobook.
Oh, okay.
To his book, the book he wrote, yeah.
I'm a big fan of audiobooks. I'm listening to The Alchemist at the moment.
The what?
The Alchemist.
Ooh, Coelho. Oh, God, I haven't read that for years.
I know.
Back in my teenage, deep and meaningful Alvaro.
Yeah, and Jeremy Irons is narrating it. And it's just, he does such a great job.
Who narrates it?
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons. Oh, cool.
Yeah, he is the person who narrates it on Audible.
Audible. Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
And it's
been
really lovely the way that he narrates that book. So I'm like, I think I need a book that I know is just going to be like a hug for my soul. So I'm like, this is what I'm going to do.
I remember reading that at the same time I read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran.
Ah, what a beautiful, both of them are beautiful books.
That was my first forays into, what does it all mean? Actually, I was just going to, purpose, and if people don't try and ponder this shit, we don't come up with epigenetics. We don't come up with this stuff. This is the thing. It's like people stop being threatened by this shit. Embrace the deep thinkings.
I posed that question after having pondered it for a couple of years. I posed it on Twitter to Eric Weinstein and his brother Brett Weinstein, and there were a couple of other mathematicians and philosophers and deep thinkers. And it was interesting to see the responses that I was getting from them, because one of them responded. It was it's this idea, like, it's not what's purpose. Like, why do we have a purpose? That's not the question. Yeah. What's the purpose of having a purpose? Like, it will put you in a hole if you think about this.
but because if you ask for what's the purpose, that's silly. It's not real. We're in a universe. Where are we? So,
Let me tell you,
but the purpose
thinking
of purpose,
about this,
that's a very human question.
The purpose of purpose, people are like, it drives humanity to want to reproduce. That's what a lot of people say. I'm like, okay, so if that's the purpose of having a purpose. Somebody like me who has chosen to not reproduce, I should therefore no longer have a purpose? Is that how
Actually,
that goes?
that's a really full-on Darwinian sort of answer, sort of thing.
Have you met me?
Very scientific. Huh?
Have you met me? Of course.
No, I'm
it
talking
is.
about no. What I mean is like people answering the question like
But
that.
they are biologists.
Okay.
Yeah. These are some of the most
I
world-renowned
just,
biologists that I was posing this question to on Twitter, and they responded, and they were like, and people were freaking out. Oh my God, they responded to you. I'm like, well, it's an intelligent question that I've never heard anyone ask it before. But like when you actually, you know who was fun to ask this question, have this conversation with? It was Cosimo.
All right. I haven't. Was that here in the podcast?
No, I said to him we should have this conversation on the podcast one day. He's like, yeah. Let me think about it some more before we do. But it will, because it will put you in a hole when you think about what's the purpose of purpose. And then you start to realize, like, hold on. Like, really, what is the purpose of having a purpose? And I think I've kind of sort of got close to an answer.
It's a very Zen question as well.
Again, have you met me?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just.
It definitely is
on it. I'm not, making judgments. I'm just like, I've been doing a lot of Kundalini yoga lately. I found
have you?
a
I've
teacher
been
just
thinking
near
about
me. It was
starting
so awesome. I'm finally back on the Kundalini. If you guys haven't tried Kundalini, give it a go. It's super trippy, super awesome. And
is it really? Like, people tell me it's like psychedelic shit.
It's pretty out there. Oh yeah, it's they call it a technology, and it's funny because even all this epigenetic stuff, like it's just like these gurus, man. They had, I mean, of course, it's all like in their own.
I just don't like the cultiness of it.
Way. Oh, it's super. It's like if it's a very scientific person, you go, what the fuck? This is so culty, so weird.
Yeah, I don't like the cultiness of it.
And stuff. It's I think it's sort of fun. It's just because there's a it's I take it, I don't take it as I don't take those. Actually, well, even if you translate what they say and so on, like there's not it's not a God thing. It's not it's a very sort of connecting with the universe sort of idea behind it. And everything, when you look at it, it can. From the outside, it looks really cool. It's so funny like that. But actually, when you go inside and actually look at it for what it is, and you read about it and you see what they're trying to achieve and the whole idea behind it, it's actually pretty spot on. It's pretty cool. It's just dressed in a way that would be very unappealing to very sort of
to anti-culty people.
And to like very full-on religious, inclined sort of thing. So but it's pretty cool. Like
what kind of experiences do you have? Like, people tell me it's the same as doing DMT.
I've never done DMT, but it'll be okay.
Ayahuasca?
Actually,
have you ever done ayahuasca?
No, I got a very good friend.
You and I have to go to Peru and do that together.
Wow, yeah, that's gonna be a trip, literally. But it's okay. Don't do a Kundalini class. Go to a Gong class.
Gong,
like a Gong sound healing class. It sounds like such a Eat, Pray, Love thing. But it's
hey, I like that book.
I never read it. I'm just like,
it's great.
I'm just a hater. So
you are. No, you're not.
And it just sounds like one of those self-discovery Bali type things. So anyway, it's so cute and nice and funny. And I know, because I do that shit, so I sort of laugh at it. So anyway, Gong healing. This shit is the closest you get to mushroom trip, which I don't know what that is what I read. But it's I don't know everything. But it will take you. You have no control. Like
really?
The moment you do it fucking poof. Like you just want to stop. You start doing meditation and you got shit coming into your head and everything like that.
Yeah.
No, man, they're gone. It lift off. and you're there, and it's a full body like.
Really?
I'm trying to bring good friends of mine, that I think I'm
Oh,
gonna
I
get
gotta
a lot
find
out of it.
one.
Oh man, it's gonna be shit tons where you are, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
California, right?
and it's like, yeah. That's it. Like, look, Jogi Bhajan, the guy. Okay, the whole idea was like, this is shit that's been practiced. This Kundalini stuff
Yeah.
was only practiced a very secretive way from guru to pupil. It was
Okay.
not a widely known yoga type thing because it's a yoga of awareness and it's not yoga like poses. It's not that physical. It's all very breathing, very attuning. It's all about controlling, attuning your emotions, staying calm. Like it's a very centering type of exercise or teachings or whatever. The really cool thing about the gong is that it just what you do your tuning, you do a little meditation thing, you lie down, and it's just. I mean, I was seeing fractals at
Oh,
one
I
point.
love
I was
that.
seeing like it's. I mean, it depends. It's like I've been doing it about twice a week because my very good friend Lala, who I was with last night, she's addicted to gong. She's just like can't get enough of gong, and she's like a marathon runner. She's a very like she was not into this like airy fairy stuff, and she was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to gong. And out of all the people, because I used to do Kundalini back in Sri Lanka, I did a
Yeah.
lot. And then I couldn't find anything here because it just turns a
I
lot of
have
people off.
4 Kundalini
With
studios within walking distance from me.
there will be gong there for sure. And
Okay.
actually, after the Kundalini class, they do it. Just do it. I mean, the worst case scenario, you're just gonna lie down and chill for an hour. Not that bad. Best case scenario, this sound, man, is pretty awesome. I only experienced it a couple of times in Sri Lanka, and it was really trippy and cool. And now this teaches this 15 minutes work from me, and she does 2 gong classes a week. I've been signing up, and that's the Kundalini classes. Man, like
What do you find it does
works
to you
really well.
afterwards?
Oh, look, you just feel really, really centered, really calm. I find myself flying off the handle like that.
The
So the thing
anxiety?
like being
Oh, not
triggered
anxiety,
or whatever,
anxious.
or anxious, triggered.
Angry.
The word trigger sort of triggers me. And,
Yeah, sorry.
but, it's
Sorry.
I never even use that word. I'm just like pissing myself off right now.
Okay. What, you've never used the word
I'm
trigger?
triggering myself.
You don't want to be that person?
I don't know, man. It's like, but no, it's just. I mean, there's sometimes you're trying to get shit done. You get things that piss you off in daily life. This stuff, you just like rise above it all. You're cool. You approach the way you see people. The way it's just. It's a very. It's you empathize. I find it easier to empathize and connect with people and just step back and listen. Like it's really. I mean, it works really well. It does wonders for me. I mean, part of the reason why I was able to deal with a lot of shit, like when I ended up in Singapore and prior to that, like
Yeah.
it was some dark times, was because I was doing a shit ton of Kundalini and I was like buzzing.
Yeah,
I was in
wow.
a really good place. And yeah, it's just, and they call it, even as they teachers, they call it a technology. They move away from being a philosophy or anything.
Or practice. What do they mean by how is it a technology? Because I know that they think it activates like your pineal gland and it accesses different realms and dimensions. Is that what they mean by the technology?
Yeah. So it's so I think that's I'm not a super expert at this, but I do think it's the exercises that you do they're supposed to have certain sort of focuses. So one's pineal gland, there's a whole idea of having chakras and so on. Whether you can buy into it or not, it doesn't matter. It's you just that's just how they talk. That's how the conversation is conducted.
Yeah.
But it's it's just the lingo of this particular thing. But it's if you can not get too caught up in that. And you look at and you go through the exercises and you understand the breathing. Yeah, it activates your pineal gland, all kinds of things. Like it's a very what they call it, the yoga of awareness. So it's very
Right.
much instead of like the yoga of like a Bikram or hot yoga or very physical type thing, this is a yoga of like connecting with the universe and everything and yourself, and finding sort of that being present. The whole idea of being present. That's what this was all about, all along. And I guess that's what I mean. Like when I was going through some pretty interesting times, was this by being present and not freaking out about what's going to happen or what's this and just being in that moment. It really puts you in a position where you can make better decisions, and yeah, it helps with all this self-loving as well, I guess, because it's you're not so caught up in your internal monologue and internal fears and anxieties and what have you.
Maybe that's what I need to restore my faith in love.
Maybe. Look, it's just do a gun. Just do a gun. It's fun. I mean, the gun is pretty cool.
There's this new, well, it's not new. I heard Terence McKenna talking about it on, I think it was on Rogan. It's this, it's this light thing. Some sort of a weird light activation that does similar to what you're talking about, but with sound. I think it was Niger or something like that. And you go to these practices and they just turn these lights onto you, and you start to experience this stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know about that, but yeah. Look, I'm sure there's many ways of achieving this. This is just one of the many ways. And I do sort of dig that whole 5,000-year-old history from Guru to think, and it's so cool. And suddenly in 1969, this yogi, like Yogi Bhajan, which, that's where it gets a little, some people go a little bit too full on about the dude, which is great because he's a great dude and everything, but it's...
is that the Bikram yoga dude?
So no. This is Kundalini.
Okay.
No.
I thought, I don't know if he was... Yeah.
I haven't seen the Netflix, but man, that guy,
I'm not going to. I couldn't.
Pretty funny. Yeah, I sort of give it a miss too. So,
yeah. That's my problem. Like, I've noticed it's become a thing. Like, I don't need to see any more horrific shit. Like, I've already there's shit humans, there's great humans. I don't need to be schooled on it. Like, I'm the wrong audience for that. I get it.
I mean, sometimes it's cool, but you gotta be in the right space for it. I'm not at the moment to watch it. So I'm like, yeah, watch it when I watch it. I mean, it's just like the news and this whole coronavirus thing, which is, it's really horrible and so on. But my God,
you need to listen to the episode of the podcast that we just did about that.
And it's like, okay, not turning on the news. We all know what's happening. We'll take care. Okay, let's just be cool with each other.
What's
this
happening
is what we
there
should all
with
be
it?
Coming together more than ever. Stop freaking out and running away from people.
Singapore's got the highest incidence outside of China.
I guess so. Yeah, because there's a lot of communication, and the airport here is huge. But the Singapore government's been doing a really good job to sort of keep things pretty chilled and giving a lot of support, and they're treating it in a very matter-of-fact way. These guys are pretty practical when it comes to that. But again, to switch on the news and like people are freaking out. Mind you, I was out, yesterday doing a little mini cafe tour last minute. So because you were asking about, what's the coffee like.
I still want to know about all of that. We'll talk about that.
Because of, and everything was full. I mean, it's Valentine's Day, so I guess certain urges are stronger than other urges.
Hey, let it go away if you're self-partnered or not. Like, those urges are still there, trust me.
So, hey, happy Valentine's.
Yeah, happy Valentine's.
But yeah, coming back to
coronavirus, you should check out the episode, and anyone who hasn't heard it, the conversation that I had with Gary Kennedy earlier this week.
Yeah, I didn't get to that point yet. Yeah, cool.
It was, I learned a lot about this. He's like Australia's leading expert on food safety science. He's a food safety scientist.
Yeah. It's from the beginning. I just, stuff.
The stuff that we talked about, it was
cool.
Like, at the end of the day, they don't know. Like, the beginning and the end of it, they don't know much about it. So they can't even tell you like how long it lives outside of the human body.
Yeah.
And kind of where I saw that it was the most threatening for the coffee industry is that because they don't know, it's like the most dangerous part of this at the moment is that it's getting to a point where it's mutatable. So they say very, very roughly, 1 in every 10,000 incidences results in a mutation of the virus.
Oh.
And most of the time, that mutation is unviable. Like going back to the genetics of what we were talking about, like the genetics.
So it might actually protect you.
Right. So what could happen is that the mutation happens in you and the virus dies. So you could be fine.
Yeah.
But where it becomes a problem, like what's happened in some places, what they've found is like, for example, the E. coli virus, which is this version of it was relatively harmless, but it was in, and someone had taken that bacterial strain, not viral strain, bacterial strain, and they had gone to somewhere that had Shigella. And Shigella is intense. Like you will just have the back end of you is just going to open up and you are just going to be like a running tap. What happened was this bacteria, E. coli, had mutated with Shigella, and this person had taken, and the mutation was not only viable, but it was much more horrific. Well, the outcome of this new version of E. coli, with the fragments of DNA from the Shigella, had started a new version of E. coli that was much more potent than
that happened
the previous.
A few years ago, right?
Yeah.
Or is that happened recently? Yeah, I remember about that. Yeah.
Right. But this is, so what happens is that every 10,000 incidences of this, so he turns around and he says, now can you imagine if something like that happened with coronavirus and Ebola? And all I thought was, but so like where I went to was, we have a lot of people who go to different origin countries, and we're about to enter that time of year now where people are going to Origin to buy green coffee.
Yeah.
And so we have people going and buying coffee and taking, let's say they happen to be one person that is a carrier of coronavirus or influenza, and they start cupping. Now, cupping situations are a great place to pass on bacteria.
My germs are your germs. So let's all come together in this ball of coffee.
All of it.
Yeah.
And so, even if they're boiling the coffee, the water that they're using or whatnot, like you just don't know what is going to happen. And so if you are in different countries than where you're used to, and you're taking new bugs to different countries, and they happen to be coming together and mutating, it's a problem.
Well, I think one of the biggest threats is a big pandemic that we face. And we, this, 2 months about, I think we all need to take measures, like governments need to wise up to this stuff, which, usually these things are reactive only when shit happens.
Yep.
That people do anything about it. And even then the people forget so fast.
Well, the WHO's just gone to China, or I think they go next year. The World Health Organization is only just been allowed permission to go into China to start understanding what China have figured out about this.
Come on. It took a while.
It's like we don't have any information. And so this is why he had some very good ideas of how we can slightly adjust cupping sessions to be a little more protective.
That's fine. Yeah.
Which was great. And I want everybody to listen to that episode just because of the advice.
Okay.
that he has given us that we should be implementing. That, you know, it should have cost us thousands of dollars to get this information. It cost me lunch I bought him lunch and said, come on the podcast. He lives in a different country. Shout out to Shift Eatery, where he's going to get lunch next week. Thanks, James. You don't know about that yet, but I'll send you the money once I do tell you. But
hopefully this is not going to amount to that, but it will be people take it as a bit of a wake-up call to start taking measures for this stuff to happen. Because even if it's not a coffee buyer, I mean, people are just traveling everywhere.
Yeah.
We're all traveling. I mean, I like to go to crazy places, destinations that I not usually go. Not crazy places, but, you know, places that usually people don't go.
You're a big scuba diver, aren't you?
Yeah. And, you know, you get really good scuba diving in places that are pretty remote.
Yeah, but, you know, he was even speaking about that, how with the ice caps that are melting, as they melt, there are ancient viruses and bacteria that are trapped in the ice caps, and they're melting and going into the
Siberian
sea.
tundra, the whole Siberian tundra, all that frozen earth full of frozen bags.
They were all big, massive burial grounds.
Ice. Oh yeah. There's all these mammoths being discovered there. I mean, there's a huge mammoth ivory trade because of all that. Yeah.
There's some interesting times ahead. I mean, as well as my cynicism about the whole love thing, I don't think the world's going to be around for more than about 30 years.
Oh, come on. The world will be around. We might not.
The world will, humanity, I mean, because I'm one of those arrogant humans who thinks that, you know, no, I'm not. I don't think, I do think that there's going to be some sort of a pandemic that will probably
I think that's one of the biggest threats that we face, because especially now that the world's so small. I do think that we need to start taking this shit seriously. I mean, it started with, like, SARS was huge. And actually, that's one of the things why, you know, the Singapore government's so very matter of fact about it, because they had a really hard time back in the early 2000s with SARS, 2003, I think. So
tell me something.
And
how many people did swine flu kill?
I don't know, but more. I think it killed more than. Yeah, I saw that statistic. It was pretty huge, right? Yeah.
575,000 people. I mean, they didn't make a big deal out of it. They didn't fucking tell. Like, they sure as shit didn't put that on the front of any papers. 575,000. Like, even Gary was shocked by that. He went, "Wow, really?"
Yeah. Who was I think I went to a doctor just get a referral, just get some check, and the doctor was showing me that, I think it was him that showed me. He said, "Look, you know, this has got a mortality rate of 2%. We don't have to, like, panic yet.
Not yet.
Or anything like that. It's let's be careful and everything. We're not shaking hands. Okay, cool." But
it becomes a problem if it mutates.
And even, like, the regular flu itself, it's killed so many more people already.
The regular flu.
And we got, you know, vaccines for that shit. So it's like.
Which only kind of sort of work.
Well, yeah, but, you know, it does mutate all the time.
Well, and that's why the vaccines don't work, is because they can't keep up with the things. The current influenza virus has infected 19 million people in the US. It has hospitalized 180,000 people, and it has killed 10,000 people so far this year.
Yeah. I was checking the CDC as well.
I said to Gary, I'm like,
really, you know, let's take that step back.
No one died from the fucking flu when I was a kid.
Huh?
No one died from the flu when I was a kid.
Well, 1918, Spanish flu, baby.
Yeah, but I mean, like, when we were kids, how regularly did you hear of somebody dying from the flu?
Not often, but, like, you know, all the people that was frail were always at risk, you know?
Yeah, I think it's just progressing. Yeah, well, you know, the simulation is evolving.
The simulation is evolving.
I'm really revealing a lot about myself on this podcast.
Coming to the end game. No, this is more reason to sort of start. You know, I was a cook guys that I can never sort of say YouTube channel, and it goes into like slight mild deep dives into different topics and so on. And one was what was it called? It was like um, greedy capitalism or something like that. It was basically so the more richness, the more we develop everybody, and I try and not talking about the world no longer being a zero sum game. So economy and so on. Like the more wealth everyone has,
Yeah.
the more everyone benefits. In the time where there's so very few having so much and such a relatively large gap, it really would help everyone, especially people with lots and lots and lots of money, to sort of get everyone else on the level, because instead of just having a bunch of countries researching this shit and then this thing, we have all this human potential that we're not utilizing. They're making like shoes and planting rice
I
by hand
definitely
and all
agree.
kinds of shit like this. Yeah, this is like, guys, let's just come together, start getting
Like
shit
Team
done,
Human.
because it's
I'm a
like
big fan of that team. Team Human.
Team Human. Yeah, I love that team. And so it's
Instead of like team liberal
like,
and team Republican and
who
team
cares about
gay or
that,
team straight or team men
Team
or
Human, man.
like Team
Let
Human.
humans be human, yeah. And that's, you say 30 years. I mean, I'm hoping that in 30 years we're going to be closer to a Team Human.
Not gonna happen.
I don't know, man. Like in the last 10 years, I've been away traveling and stuff. I see things relatively moving in a positive way. Seriously, I do.
It is like in smaller
Things are
communities.
rising.
I think
Things
that's
are not going to happen fast, but I mean, man, we live in pretty fucking awesome times. I mean, this is pretty awesome. I would not want to be around 100 years ago. That would have sucked.
fuck no. Fuck
Even
no.
50 years ago. Like, this is cool. That's why I want to live another fucking 20 lifetimes if I can. How cool is that? I want to see what's going on in this world. It's so exciting.
Yes. Yeah. And it's even I was saying, like, as I was listening to that Steven Pinker thing, and it was a lecture on, are we better off today or worse off today? That whole discussion about people are saying that, it's such a shitty time to be alive. And it led me down into this like rabbit hole of, hey, listen, I know you think that life is like, by you, I mean me. Like, I was trying to get some self-perspective. It's like, well, when I think about it, I'm not where I thought I was going to be. But that's actually a really great thing, because I made the choices to get me here, and it doesn't look like what I thought it would look like, but I'm still here based on the very deliberate choices that I made, and nobody made those choices for me. 100 years ago, I wouldn't have had that privilege. As a woman, no fucking chance. I live in the first time in history where a woman can do and be whatever the fuck she wants, and she is not going to have to worry about whether she's going to survive or not.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. Like, as shitty as you look at the mindfuck that is going on out there, I'm making a conscious choice to focus on the idea that there is balance with it. Like, there is stuff that's extraordinary and there's stuff that's shit. The stuff that I can control, the choices that I make in my own life, they're all extraordinary. Yep. And I've done a good job of fashioning the life that I'm looking for, and I'm really proud of that.
I was it was last night. This thing came up because it was like, the destination it's like an excuse to stay on the journey type of thing, because it doesn't really matter that much. Like, just like how many twists and turns life take, and you might aim that way, and you end up here, but hey, that's cool. I mean, I've been on my way to Spain for 12 years, for God's sake. I still haven't got it
yeah. Every time I say that to you, I'm like, well, what's next? You're like, I'm still trying to get to Spain. I'm still
there. I'm still on the way there.
I'm still on the way there. I'm still going back to where it started. And that's the thing, like
to the
Okay, so
epicenter.
I left my marriage so that I could go and explore who I would be if I wasn't ticking all the boxes. Okay, Lee, you've created that life. It doesn't look like what you thought it would look like to do that, but you are fucking doing it, and you're not doing anywhere near as shit a job at it as you thought you are.
Yeah. This brings me to this point. I thought about it earlier, but I guess it wasn't the right point, the right time. The day I made the decision to like quit my job and just go traveling, I had no freaking clue what the hell I was gonna do.
Yeah, right.
I'm just gonna go. I'll take a couple of harmonicas with me. I don't know how to play the harmonica, but if I
Love
find
it.
myself completely broke, I learn to play the harmonica.
Yeah, wow.
Maybe make some money until I figure out the next point. Because they're small, so I didn't
And you
take
can
a lot
carry it
with
in your
me.
pocket.
You can carry them. So, and I left. And to this day, I don't know how to play the harmonica, which I think it's an achievement. I never
I
learned,
do.
which means everything sort of worked out because I didn't
Great.
have to pick up the harmonica. But it's
Fantastic.
I remember sitting in this plane and going, and yeah, I was running this coffee school. I had a lot of stuff. I was thinking, oh, okay, what's happening tomorrow? Pa, 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 pa. You know, I was 29, I think, or something. I was do, and suddenly I see this playing, and I'm like, tomorrow. Oh no, it's not tomorrow. Like, and suddenly I had this moment where like life just went. It only lasted
Wow.
like 2 seconds. I was like, everything was like a blank
Was
slate,
it an
and
acid
everything was
flash?
mine. And yeah, I know it's a flashback. No, baby, that was
Oh.
all my head. Oh
Ah.
no, oh, that's just my head. That was like fucking super frightening and so exciting at that point.
Yeah.
And that was the point where I was like, okay, every choice I make from now on, it's mine. I own all the shit. Like
It's so
I can't be
liberating,
pissed
isn't it?
off about anything because I have taken such a weird turn
Yeah.
into the unknown out of my own volition without having to. I had a pretty good gig. Everything was cool. But I was just, I don't know, man. I want to just see what's going on. Poof. And that was, yeah, it was like super frightening, super liberating. Like that was cool. I mean, of course, it goes up and down and da. But man, like when shit goes weird and things I bring myself back to that moment. And I was like, hey, that was you. That's your thing. On this shit. That
And
was
and you can
took this
take
step.
it. That's it. You can
You know,
take
take
responsibility
ownership.
for it,
Yeah.
and you take ownership for it, and you're like, okay, so there's. I think what the part for me was difficult was like I just expected that if I would like make all these very important decisions that they were all going to be like fabulous decisions because I was taking control of everything, and I'm like,
Ah,
fuck, this shit's
you have different
hard.
intentions.
Yeah.
See, I
Well,
went into, let's see what happens.
yeah, no, I just thought I was going to be perfect, bro. Like clearly
Oh, wow.
everything that I'm going to do is just going to work out for the better because where I'm at right now just isn't working for me. And then what I realized is like, oh, this is like a vision quest. You go into the unknown, even though you've decided to walk in this direction, you don't know what's waiting there. You don't know what's coming. You don't know what part of your baggage you put there before you showed up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like,
And you can't escape your baggage either. It always it
that's
comes
the
along
asshole
to the
part of
right.
it. Fuck, that one was terrible. I'm like, if I go down
You think
this
I'm
way.
still me?
Yeah, fuck. That was hard, that one. When I when I realized like shit, like what do you mean I can't go and just have this awesome experience with a music career and write all this music and release albums and do this really great stuff that I never ever thought I'd be able to do.
Yeah.
And I thought that somehow was going to mean that I would just be like a better version of myself. But if like take a listen to any of my music and you'll realize like clearly I was using my music as therapy. And so I'm deep diving into my emotions thinking, no, this is going to be fun. What the fuck are you thinking? This is the best kind of torture, but still torture. Like you've chosen to leave a safe life, And that, like, great corporate
Yeah.
job. I was, we owned houses, we had cars, we were both making money, businesses, blah, blah, blah. I derail that. I go into an industry that I know nothing about, coffee and music. And I just expect that everything's going to go great. Just because I've decided to do things different.
But that's the right way to go about it, though. Like, you need to believe.
I know that now. I know that now. Then it was just blind faith. I'm like, no, this is going to be amazing because I know that I can do this.
Yeah.
I had no idea how hard it was going to be. And I'm telling you, it's the best hard you will ever experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's just when you don't know what to do with your life, you're a little lost, get a ticket, see what happens.
Just derail it somehow. Don't fuck up everybody around you. Just turn around and go somewhere.
Yeah.
But go somewhere where you have no connection to your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Go somewhere where you have nothing to fall back on, and with nowhere near enough money, because I had no money when I moved to LA the first time and the second time the third time. Yeah. And doing it with no money will really, because you will survive it. You know you're going to survive it, and you just don't know how that's going to happen.
No.
But the great thing that comes from it is, like, now I look at this and I'm like, you know what? There's nothing I can't survive.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can't survive, right?
Things are not that. Yeah, things are pretty cool. Yeah, it's sort of pretty fearless. I just remembered something. I remember becoming a coffee consultant, and I'm like, okay, how do I become a coffee consultant? I'm like,
this is going to be interesting.
I just have to, it was like, that movie Kingdom of Heaven, which is a lot of people give it shit because it's not accurate, whatever, I thought it was fun. And towards the end, this guy, Orlando Bloom, just makes all these villages into nights. You're a night. You're a night. You're a night.
You decided you were going to knight yourself a coffee consultant?
That's what's okay. I was like, this guy sort of offered me a job to be a consultant for the thing, and I was I was going to get paid. Finally, probably going to support me for a few months. I was going to get paid $2,000. Wow. And I was like, okay, cool. How do I do this? And I'm Googling shit and going, you know what? What the fuck? And I'm like, I just say, I'm a coffee consultant. I just gotta. It just I am. I know coffee.
Yep. I've been self-ordained, right?
I just gotta say it. I just gotta believe it. It's just what it is. I mean, how does anyone do anything? It's just there's no. I mean, it's not gonna get a certification for this shit or anything, especially back then. So I'm
especially back then.
I was like, I was writing the books to teach this stuff, so I was like, oh, okay. So I'm just, right, cool. I just gotta say. And it was just that moment of fuck, okay, cool. Just makes stuff happen. I mean, this is, I did know enough to do it and so on, although I did learn a lot more later on. And by doing it, I learned a couple of more and always, try and give as much as I could. I mean, this is a double-edged sword because people can then just say they're anything and anything happens. So, I mean, I'm not advocating that because I don't want a doctor to just say,
further details on anything to do with coffee consulting, please head to the mapperforward.org website and click on our series on becoming a coffee consultant.
That is a direction. This was a long time ago.
Right. And that's the difference, right?
It was so funny because I was but it was an example of one of those moments where you just go, what the fuck am I doing? How did I end up here? What I've got this thing. Yeah, I can do it. But, and these self-doubt, these self-things. And I'm just going, okay, just having that first step of okay, let's take that step and see how it goes. And, and there's a little bit of that, what do you call it? That imposter syndrome thing of like,
Yes.
am I really this? Am I really that? Whatever. And then just sort of, okay, so how do I balance that shit out? Is that okay? Well, I'm just gonna be pretty open about like what I don't know, and
Yep.
just say, well, this is what's gonna happen. This is where I can take you with this. We're gonna figure this shit out together, and
But you know what the
so-
secret sauce to that is? You're an authentic person. So it's different when you do that leading with authenticity versus doing that and leading with how can I trick these people?
yeah, I have encountered that stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
God.
Like
That's why I'm saying I'm not an advocate for just doing
No.
this shit like that. But you gotta,
right.
you know.
But the
yeah.
difference is like you trained most of us in our generation. Like you were the Toby's
A generation of messy baristas.
messy baristas. No, but what I'm saying is specialty coffee was in Sydney. Toby's was the beginning of specialty coffee in Sydney. And, you know, Toby's and Campos and those places gave birth to the Meccas and the places like that, Sample Coffee and all the places that then came after that.
Yeah.
And I say that because you didn't just decide to be a coffee consultant after doing what you're doing for 2 years. You had a track record of established experience and knowledge that you could rest your laurels on, that you could then with confidence pass on to people. Versus these people who are like, fuck, I can't find a job. I've been in coffee for 2 years. Maybe I can become a coffee consultant and I'll just fake my way through it.
I did the calculations at 20,000 people. I was like, cool. So
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. Like you're...
Like, but it's... Yeah, but even then I was like, okay, but do I know enough for this? Yeah, guys, if you're thinking of it, go into Map It Forward and learn at least the right way to go about doing things. Because you don't want to go around misleading people just because you think you know...
No, and it's not fair. It's not, like taking people's money.
You're not doing justice to the industry or the people that are coming to listen to you. You know, do things. You know, again, this is for me would be an operating from love point of view. So, like, you know, do things in a way that you want them done to you in a way.
But one of your superpowers, Alvaro, is that you will happily say, "I don't know. I can't teach you that. I can teach you this."
But saying I don't know, it's like it's so good because then you know where to start.
Yeah,
that's
most people haven't figured that out in coffee. Most people are like, "Fuck, this person's going to realize that I don't know what I'm talking about." It's like, and that's okay because then I can trust that what you do talk to me about, you actually know about.
Oh, I remember like having classes. It was so fun because I was such a green being. Like back when I first started. And people have been doing this for 20 years, and I've been doing this shit for like 2 years, and I'm suddenly a coffee trainer, and they were like, what if you do that? And I was like, well, let's find out. And some classes would go on for like an hour and a half further because like, look, we're breaking new ground. No one's done this shit before. Let's try it out like this. And everyone's into it because we're like, okay, cool. It's like, I don't know shit. Let's find out. Let's play with stuff. You know, let's write the rules. Let's work it out. Let's not stick to stuff. Let's just make it taste good and see how. And, yeah, that's why is that like, why can't we just do that?
I don't know. I gotta say, like, I find
you're in
nothing.
the wrong place if you're not doing that with whatever you're doing in your life. I think you're like, what's the point?
Don't try and know everything because those of us who have gone on a journey know that you can't know everything. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know anything.
But that's why it's fun. The purpose of purpose.
The purpose of purpose. But I think I think that from what I have explored about the purpose of purpose, I think that we have evolved as a species to have a purpose so that we don't kill ourselves.
I think most species that are alive have that to some degree.
No.
What
I'm saying.
Let me have a think about it.
Go on.
Go on. Say it again.
Okay, so
for everyone.
So
for me,
the purpose of purpose is, I think as a species, it was something that was conditioned into us when religious organizations started to become a part of the influence of how humanity started to govern itself. And it gave things or organizations like religions a way to trick you into leading your life with their purpose.
Well, yeah. I don't know if the word trick is the right word because things have a purpose at certain times. And again, they might become irrelevant with time and so on. I'm
cynical.
Not, religious
so
on,
you can use the word trick for me, but
that's okay. No, I'm just thinking.
I'm not cynical. For anyone who thinks that I'm a miserable bitch, I swear to God, I'm not.
I'm not religious. I don't. Well, yeah, there's no need to alienate. Like, I'm not saying you're alienating, but like, people that might be. I'm
talking about
might
thousands
not
of years
be
ago
tricking
too.
you, but there is a purpose to thing, and we have always asked ourselves, why the hell are we here? What's the whole point of everything? And when someone tells you the answer, and tells you an answer or inculcates an answer into you since you're very young, then at least it gives you some sort of peace of mind. Okay, we're not just, left alone in a world in the middle of fucking nowhere and, become a complete nihilist. Like, nothing means nothing and everything's like pointless. Which, what I am, and I'm sort of positive nihilist. I think it's great. I think it's great that we're like, because how freaking awesome is this? Bunch of atoms come together having a chat about what we are. Fuck. And the Carl Sagan thing. We are the universe way of thinking about itself. This is like, we are like the stars way of going, what the fuck are we? How did we come to being? This is like the universe sort of starts blowing out, creating all the atoms we're made of, and then reassembling themselves to start asking questions like this. How fucking cool is that?
Which is...
It still is no purpose, but it's pretty fucking cool.
At the very least, it's crazy interesting.
Yeah.
Right? But then when you look at it further, you're like, okay, if it's really interesting, stay with me here.
I am.
If it's really interesting, could it be deliberate? And that's when you kind of get into the realm of the whole, if it is deliberate, is it a construct of a sim?
You're really into Rick and Morty, aren't you?
I haven't seen Rick and Morty at all. No.
Oh my God. Oh. Okay, anyway.
I'll check it out. Should
I'm
I?
a big fan. Fuck yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, totally. Get into it. Watch a few episodes. It's fun.
Okay.
And,
but when you look at stuff like that, when you look at it, you're like, okay, this is super interesting. And the amount of coincidences that needed to happen for this very interesting thing to come together, this thing called evolution in the way that it came together. And it's not just evolution, it's evolution and the different elements that came together and the universe and all of that to come together the way that it did. What exists beyond it that's influencing all of those coincidences to conspire together to create this?
Or are we just another part of the universe, like a pulsar or a quasar? Are we just a natural sort of offshoot of the universe? Are we just part of it? Does it need to have a divinity or anything or any construct behind it? Are we just a natural process of what happens in the universe as it does its thing?
Right. Or have we been created within another universe as a deliberate construct of a universe that exists outside of us?
You can go same question about that universe and that knows them. So this is why it's very tempting and very what's the word? Well, let's say tempting. It's very compelling to then get into a sort of religious, spiritual sort of point, which is perfectly valid and cool. And look, that's totally again, you do you. I think it's super cool just that we are, even if we just part of the whole nature, just the fact that whether there's a point or no point, it's not, doesn't matter. We're here. How cool is this?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Like you just think, and that's why when you start to contemplate, like, what's the purpose of having a purpose to it?
Okay. If you look at it from the point of view that we are just, it sounds really wanky and funny, but it's the truth. We are just made of like star stuff. And
how do you know?
Stars, that's where all our atoms and molecules came
how do
from.
We know?
Because helium, hydrogen, because when it's a supernova, all this shit gets spilled out.
Right, but
and that's the place in the universe where you find all the other elements in the periodic table. They all come from places like that, except for maybe a couple that have been manufactured. But it all comes. I mean, there's helium and hydrogen.
As
stars.
far as we know.
Yeah, as far as we know. Well, everything's as far as we know.
And that's my point.
We have a pretty good idea of this stuff, though.
As far as we know.
Yeah, okay. But we are made out of stuff like that. And that stuff in the universe is only found when stars explode. So, okay, as far as we know, that's it. But, we are made of the same stuff. The Earth is made of the same stuff. The Moon's made of the same stuff. Everything's like, there is a pretty compelling argument for knowing that everything's pretty connected. So taking that into that perspective, then we're just not different to the whole universe. We are part of the universe like this. We are, and this is why, whether it was created or not created, or came from a divine thing or it's a simulation, it's still, once you take that far enough, you're gonna have the same question. And even those people or those aliens or those things or that simulation who made the simulation, eventually you take it far enough and there is something. And that stuff will have, maybe it's not the same as this, but it will have a similar, there will be a universe of sorts. That's what I'm trying to say. There will have to be something. Where that came from?
Perhaps. And that's where it becomes like really interesting when you think about it like that, right? Yeah. Like, what's the beginning, and is it infinite or isn't it infinite? And how do the people at the origin of it know that they are the actual origin of it? Because we think we're the origin of it, but yet we're creating these virtual realms that will be a simulation, a simulation that we know because we're creating it.
Yeah, and it could be, and but. Oh, you gotta watch this Rick and Morty episode. That's hilarious. Really? It's exactly that. Yeah, it's so fun. It's
Did
really
you just
cool.
wave toothpaste at me?
No. This is. I'm just. Yeah, it looks like toothpaste, isn't it? I don't know. It's
Difflam.
I had a master lake the other day, and for some reason I left it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a mess. Never mind.
Tell me about Tell me about the Singapore coffee scene. Just to take a complete left.
Okay.
Talk.
Yes. Let's just from the universe to the coffee universe.
What's it like?
Well, it's actually becoming harder and harder to get a bad coffee here, which is great.
I like that.
So yeah. If you're ever in this places, I mean, yesterday actually, after you mentioned that, I was like, well, it's been a while since I've visited these guys, because with my own coffee thing and so on. So I went to Nylon. I love those guys because it's like a husband-wife team, and they've been super solid since they started. They started around the same time as we started here, about 10 years ago. And they have a little roastery, and it's super hard to find. It's in a local sort of urbanization, like a HDB thing. It's on the ground floor, and and the coffee is always super solid. They got a little proba. I think it's a 9 kilo proba or something, and they just roasting all the time. I always think, I don't know if they got a blend. I always have the single origins. But anyway, I went there with Sharila. I took it for a little coffee wandering. And then we went to a couple of other places. We went to Adebeer de Bella. So these two are probably like what I consider my two favorite sort of specialty coffee places here. I mean, there's a whole bunch of it, of other different ones that are doing great jobs and so on. We've had a stopover at Populous, Dutch Colony. There's a lot of roasters here, which in a way it's really good for the consumer because, we spoil for choice. Mm-hmm. In other ways, it's a little bit saturated when it comes to like wholesaling and things like that. So the wholesale game's a little hard. And
Yeah,
people
that's
sort of
happening
prefer to
everywhere.
roast their own coffee rather than buy wholesale coffee a lot of the time. And the people that buy wholesale coffee tend to be bigger, sort of chains or cafes, and they generally don't want to fork out that much, and the coffee is so secondary. So it's sort of premium style coffee, not specialty. So premium style is still pretty strong. And it still sells a lot more than, I think the volumes are a lot larger on that because they can hit hotels and they can hit sort of bigger chains and so on. Because ultimately people don't drink as much coffee here as they do in like Australia. God,
Is the
drink so much
instant
coffee.
market really big over there?
I would assume so, but I'm not too sure. I know the instant market is huge in other parts of Asia, and the three in
Yeah,
ones. That's massive. Also because
it's
people are
cheaper.
getting paid $300 a week, not a week, a month. So with
Yeah,
that money, you gotta go for super cheap coffee. You still need your caffeine. So that's the demographics is still that. But, it has improved, and you can see through sort of the buying power of people sort of improving as well. You see that the economics and the wealth is sort of slowly but surely expanding, and countries are doing better, and there's some more positive vibe around. People are sort of seeing a bit more of a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's
that's
just
awesome.
hopefully. So yeah, I mean, Asia's a really positive place to live. I really like it here. It's really, you see in the last 11, 12 years I've been here, you've seen these huge changes. The first time I went to the Philippines, I was like, oh no, my peeps left such a mess here.
Yeah,
It was like the Spaniards. And man, within a couple of years, I kept going every year. And it's just, I mean, there's so many problems still, and a lot of poverty, of course, but it's just, you just see the vibe getting more positive and people sort of rising up and moving forwards and just the general vibe. It's just improving Vietnam. It's the coffee scene there. I go there quite often as well, just because I've got a good mate that lives there. And it again. They drink a lot of coffee, the Vietnamese actually, and it's still generally pretty low quality stuff because wages across the board are pretty low, but the specialty scene is growing pretty fast, and people are more cognizant. And in Singapore, the new generation, like your generation said, they're growing up with more specialty coffee in
yeah,
mind, which the millennials here were sort of, yeah, and our generation had no freaking clue. Like, yeah,
yeah,
coffee comes from a sock. What are you talking about? So,
yeah. It actually comes off a tree. Look, even here, I'm shocked at how many people don't know that coffee comes from a tree, from a farm.
yeah, I know.
That's pretty shocking. Like
Coffee grows on trees.
that's not their fault. That's our fault
No,
for
no.
not educating them on that.
Yeah.
Do you find that coffee competitions are a big thing in Singapore now?
It seems to have quietened down a little bit. I think this year, I got told yesterday when I was at the Build Bella, the barista there told me that the competition he had been cancelled because of
Because
the
of
whole virus thing.
coronavirus?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah. So, but I mean, whenever we hold a barista throwdown, like a latte throwdown and everything, people are really keen to compete. Actually, I hear, I don't know for sure, but I hear that in Australia and so on, the competitions are not that big a thing. The people are not as willing, it seems, to compete. I don't know. That's the general thing I've been heard. I don't know for sure. But in Asia, people love the competitions and they love the
Yeah.
showmanship and so on. Like, Philippines is really big on it. Indonesia is really big on it. They really get into it.
In Australia, it's becoming like for our generation, Gen X, it wasn't as big a deal. Like that, we struggled really hard to get people. I didn't even go to a single latte art throwdown in Australia ever.
Yeah, actually, I knew that.
No,
I did compete, but only on my own volition. That's it. There
no,
was not
and
like a push to do this or anything
yeah,
like that.
the barista competitions weren't a big deal when we were coming up, but then the millennials and Gen Z are really pushing, particularly like the new ones, Gen Z are all pushing to compete in a big way, which is awesome. Like it creates community and it creates a drive to push things forward. And the cool thing is most of them have Gen X employers who are encouraging it and financing it. Bro, I've been hearing some terms like, in order to get to Worlds, it costs about $100,000.
Yeah, well, did you see that documentary? I haven't seen it yet. Barista, they follow 3 baristas through the whole World Barista competition.
There's Barista 2's
cool,
come out as well. I haven't seen it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Friends of mine are in it, but
I saw the short, but yeah.
It's like, I think it was Janina who was telling me she was the Australian Brewers Cup champion. And by the time that she had tallied up all of the money that it cost her to compete and to travel, to go and buy her coffees from Origin, all that kind of stuff, it was $100,000 that they needed.
Wow.
That's the kind of dollars that you're looking at to get to that level. And maybe come top 10 if you're really lucky. And nobody remembers who came second, third, fourth, or anything or seventh. Nobody remembers any of that. It's $100,000 down.
The winner. Yeah.
So
I do remember, like, every time I went to a competition, it just went up levels. Like when you play like this D&D or something like that, you go up at a level 20 wizard or something. Like just the intensity you put into that thing and just how you have to think about it. I mean, I always encourage people to do it because it's just, doesn't matter whether you win or not or anything. Just get in there, do it because it just puts you in a really cool. Yes, just do anything that's hard, people. Get your ass out there.
And anything that's going to challenge you. Like me doing competition, I wouldn't find that hard. I would find it annoying. But like starting a business, I would find terribly hard, and that's why I've done that and not competition. Find shit that you think is hard, like maybe go on a holiday. Like I know people who would be terrified to travel, just to get on a plane and travel somewhere. Yeah. You'll learn so much about yourself from it.
Oh, look, I came to scuba diving when I was 35, like pretty late in the game. And I always wanted to do it. And I just like, let's just try there. It was the worst thing I had. I was by myself in Phi Island. Not Phi Island, in Phuket, but we went diving off Phi Island. Okay. So with this dude. And it was so awesome. And at that age, I was pretty unfit as well. I was like, and I was, but then my instructor looked a little more unfit than me. So I think I can do it. I think I can do it. So, yay. So
if your instructor's more unfit than you are, you're on a winning thing. I get that.
Thank you. You're encouraging me.
That works.
If you can do it, I think I can do it too. And you do it 3 times a day. Okay. I'm only doing it for like 20 minutes. It's my first baptism. And it's just like, do shit. Like, there's a whole world out there. It's so cool. Like, okay, if something freaks you out, take baby steps. Get your feet wet at least. But get your feet wet and then go a little deeper and see what happens, or just jump head first. It just depends on the person, I guess.
I think the key is like understanding that having friction in your life is the thing that makes you a better person. But starting to learn how much friction is the sweet spot. Because if you have too much friction, you'll get buried under it. And it just debilitates you.
But you don't know until you do it.
No.
It's just...
It's like learning
you're gonna get buried under sooner or later. Just be aware that that's what's going to happen. You get rise out of it,
Yeah. And then you fall and you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to get up. And then somehow you find yourself in another clusterfuck and you're like, well, clearly if I got here, I had to have got up from the last clusterfuck and made it this far. If you can make the distance between the clusterfucks mean something, then the clusterfuck itself becomes more bearable and you trust it more. You're like, all right, so this is teaching me something about what my fear is, and I have a little more confidence that I'm going to get up because I've got up once before.
Yeah. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, you die. Okay,
Big deal. It's a simulation
Avoid
anyway.
the whole. No, come on. Lee.
It doesn't matter.
Maybe it's not. But hey, it does because simulation or not, I dig it. So keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep the matrix running. Yeah, don't press the reset button. I'm not done. So anyway, death. Okay, well, just try and avoid the whole death thing. Think about it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, you die or you get really fucked up. Okay, cool. Well, look at that scenario. How do I avoid those things? Okay, you stay away from this. Okay, cool. Then do all the other shit. Like those things are generally pretty easy to avoid. In most
But the
circumstances.
even worse part is living a life that you hate.
I know. I've been wanting to do that, but never really having the courage or motivate. Oh man!
No,
like,
leave the
and then
relationship that you hate, but do it in a caring, considerate way. Don't just pick up and fuck off and leave your partner with children and mortgages and things like that. Like, don't do that. That's
have
not right.
responsibility about things.
Have a
And to
sense
yourself
of
as well.
responsibility.
Be caring about yourself as well. Don't
Yeah.
just get yourself into a situation where you can, potentially end.
But-
As long as the game is going,
Yeah,
we still have so much that we can get done.
totally.
The
The job you hate,
As a friend of mine always says.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know. A friend of mine always says, just as long as you stay in the game, everything, you can always find a way.
And because it's a simulation, I feel that you can influence the game. Try and contact your controller.
You are gonna love Rick and Morty. Oh my
so
god!
many
I wish I
people
was
have
there
told
watching
me
it
to
with
watch
you.
that.
Oh no, I'm telling you to watch that. I will give you the episode to watch. Like, start watching episode 1 or whatever, and if you don't like it, you want to continue, then I'll just tell you which episode, which is called Simulation, and just watch that. But I won't get you started with that. Just start watching and see how you feel about it.
All right,
But when
I'll
you get
check
to
it
that
out
one,
tonight.
you'll know. Yeah, it's so much fun.
Talking about that, we're coming on 3 hours.
No way! Oh shit! Oh wow!
Listen, 100% of
Maybe
people.
it's an hour. Your podcast go on forever. I was like, nah, that's not gonna happen. Damn. Okay. Well,
Everybody says to me, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, we're just going to talk. We're just going to have a conversation. They're like, but I wouldn't have anything interesting to talk about. I'm like, the time is going to fly so fucking quickly. It will shock you. See what I mean?
I just realized we hadn't talked about, the meaning of life and being 42. that was it. That's it. That's it, guys. It's 42. If you don't know it, get into your Guide of the Galaxy.
Are you excited about 42 though?
I wasn't talking about age. I was talking about the meaning of it. No, I'm not freaking excited about it. Actually, no, I don't really care. There's a side of me that goes, oh, God. Wow.
I swear your 40s are the
I was
best.
hanging out with people that were older than me. So they were all going, they're always just telling me, I was like, hey, so what are you talking about?
No,
Cool.
your 40s are the best.
No. I'm really, this is awesome. I'm digging it. This is really cool.
Yeah, man. You know what's better for women? Like, by the time you get to 40, you're like, all right, I don't have to worry about having kids anymore because it's... No, that's it. Like, no, not going to happen. I don't want it to happen now. Decisions get made for you. You get to 40 and you're like, yeah, nah, I don't want to be 60 years old and have a 20-year-old kid. No, not going to be for me. And nothing is as stressful, actually. No, it's still true. Like, you don't stress about as much as you did in your 30s when you're 40. You're like, by this point, you realize, you know what? A lot of this shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I can just focus on what's going to make me happy and make that what I have to do today and do it in a really responsible way.
Yeah, there's a few people around our age that I know that are beginning to now put their in the words. Who was I talking to? But yeah, she basically said, I'm putting my happiness first. So that was I was like, cool.
Hey,
awesome!
What a great place to end the conversation. Yeah. Put your happiness first, kids.
Yeah.
So now that we've established that there's a simulation, that there is a purpose to the purpose.
I'm not all up for the simulation. Just I think it's,
Well, one day,
I was having these conversations when I was in high school. This is not
were
a
you?
new theory. Yeah, I went to a really geeky sort of science program, and I met some really full-on minds. And I was this guy who I lost contact with, unfortunately, but we used to have the most creepy out there conversations, and he was really well read on all these things. And one of the things that we would go hours loving into, like, can we download our brains into a chip? Is everything a
Yeah,
simulation?
wow.
Like all this stuff. And this is like, back in the 90s. This is not a new idea. It's but now that we've got like pretty legit VR stuff and cool games, people are going, oh shit, maybe it is.
Maybe it is true.
Doesn't matter.
I'm not saying it matters. I just love the fact that it gives you this perspective that pushes the boundaries of your mind much further than when the perspectives that we had when we were kids in science class. Like so much more is an option and you can play with it. Like okay, let's say, all right, everybody, actually, if you're listening to this and you thought I was crazy before, you're going to think I'm legit fucking crazy now.
Go on.
So let's say there is a simulation, right? We'll come from that preface. Yeah. Well, all right. So who created the simulation? And what does it mean? And what relationship do the creators of the simulation have with the current occupants of the simulation? And is there, like, let's call them a controller, right? Is it one controller per simulation, or is it one controller per person in the simulation? And how did they create the things that exist in this simulation? Were they programmed to be bodies that had their own consciousness and could make their own decisions? Or are we tied in kind of a way that, like when you play video games, that everything that we're acting out is being decided by the person who's controlling us? And here's the biggest mindfuck of all of it. How is any of that any different than Christianity and other religions?
Oh, I was just, a work of art by some sort of super cool being who just wanted to make some cool universe.
Through a digital
we just
app.
Because he just thought, let's just make something awesome. Here we are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like when you think about it that way, you're like, all right, so if there is a controller or whatever we want to call it, and we have a connection with regards to consciousness, which things like Kundalini technology could give us access to, or DMT, or any of these things, right? Mm-hmm. What says that we couldn't connect with them and talk with them and ask them for different, like, superpowers in this realm?
Oh, I haven't, because I don't know enough about it yet, but it goes into those realms.
Oh, awesome.
It does, yeah. And actually, I won't carry on too much because this is going on forever, but if you go, and again, I'm not an astrophysicist, but I dabble in learning about shit like this. If you go into like deep stuff like this, and you think about like the whole idea of the observer changing how atoms change, all these things that are that connected to the whole idea of simulation. It's super fun.
It's fun. It'll bury you under a mountain of shit you can't explain.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's a mountain of shit we can explain, and
that's
continues
great.
To grow, and that's cool. That is awesome. That's why it's like, yeah, like just keep on the game. There's so much to learn. It's so much fun. Like it's just, I'm sort of tempted sometimes to go, fuck, I'm gonna go back to do my science thing. But then being a scientist is all these politics, and I'd be too old. I wouldn't do anything interesting. So I'd be like, oh well. So
you're better off listening to conversations with interesting people.
Yeah, just learning my own shit.
Podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's
Alvaro, another epic fucking conversation. Thank you, sir.
Rock and roll. Thank you, Lee.
It's never boring, and
always
a 3-hour conversation that felt like it was, I don't know, an hour
that was
at
pretty
most.
Fast. Yeah. Oh well, and thank you for spending your Valentine's with me. That was lovely.
How could I turn down the offer? It was just so lovely. And
I have a knack of doing pretty cool things on Valentine's. It's pretty good. Yeah.
This has been.
No,
This is my first Valentine's
This is
self-partnered,
awesome.
and this has been my best Valentine's yet. I took
Likewise,
myself on a
right?
date earlier today. I got to hang out with you. It's awesome.
And it's still early. The day's not over yet. The night's young.
I might go and have a bit
Maybe.
of. I might sit on my balcony and watch some Rick and Morty,
Yeah.
and maybe take a hit of a joint and have a really great night.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, one day.
I
One day.
smoke very rarely, very, very rarely.
Oh, Rick and Morty. Yep, definitely.
But I feel
not
like
too much because you were like.
no,
you
I
want to be
can't
a
smoke
shit,
too much.
but yeah.
I don't smoke enough to be able to take any more than
okay,
one
okay. Just
hit
play
or
the
2
edges a bit.
hits of a joint. But if I have any more than that, I can't function, and that's not who I am.
Same.
But anyway, so on this podcast, people have learnt that I am self-partnered. They have learnt that I smoke weed every now and then. They have learnt that I used to be married. None of this shit was public knowledge, not even for anyone who has been like people in my fucking music career didn't even know about this. I have never made any of this shit public knowledge, ever. Thanks, Alvaro.
Well, thank
This
you
is what you get when you get your friends on
for
the
using me as
podcast.
your catalyst for.
I
for
wasn't
such
intending on talking about any of it. Oh, I love you, my friend.
Awesome.
We'll talk
Love
soon.
you.
Bye.
Take care.
See you later.
See ya.